Chapter 531. Yi Shou Xian looked at his adjutant, the famous unyielding man of the third gold branch. In truth, he did not like his adjutant, because he knew the adjutant was the true leader of the army, and he was the commander in name, but in truth, he was just a manager hired with a high salary. It was just that normally, he was humble, and did not like to fight, and the other party treated him with respect. But Little Fool's face had become extremely ugly, so gloomy that water could be squeezed out. With a thought, he disappeared with the forceful subjugating bead. Seeing that he was about to fly out from the hole, whoosh, a demonic light-colored flame tongue suddenly shot out, and swallowed the Honorable Martial Group martial artist. In that moment the Honorable Martial Group martial artist did not even have the time to scream, and disappeared, without leaving any traces. His adjutant also spoke out. I am Ole, Light Blade Army's Vice Commander, representing the Light Blade Army, requests to surrender. No, there is no reason for you to receive this punishment alone. The adjutant struggled to stand up, his face regaining a bit of vitality. This battle we have lost, we do not have any ability to resist, although I am not a military general, but I know this is a disgrace. If I do not even have the courage to fight for the chance for my soldiers to surrender, then I will not be able to forgive myself. Surrender? Some of the more intelligent ones, like Meng Ta, thought more. If these flames touched the spirit treasures. This was an extremely unorthodox spirit treasure, only those blood saints would be able to create such strange and demonic spirit treasures. Yin and Yang gave birth to spirit flames, and as the spirit flames continued to grow and evolve, it could be refined into a spirit-devouring flame. The most important thing to refine the spirit-devouring flame was to use star treasures to nurture it, and let it continue to evolve. Who knew that the other party would surrender? After swallowing the entire star treasure stronghold, over 2,000 star treasures, they had already evolved. Bang! The stronghold was in complete chaos. Little fool! If it broke through 200 spirit value, the spirit-devouring flame could evolve again. After absorbing over 2,000 star treasures, the spirit-devouring flame's spirit value continued to rise, and had already reached over 180 spirit value, and was just a step away from 200 points. Damn Honorable Martial Alliance, the trial of light is weird. In his field of vision, those little flames were like demonic but extremely hungry insects that were crazily gnawing at the fortress. All sorts of attacks of different attributes crazily bombarded the faint-colored flames. Little Fool was extremely unwilling. He had never thought that the power of this soul fire would be so great, and when the spirit fire turned into a rainbow flame, he suddenly thought of another type of spirit treasure recorded by Gui Wu. Tang Tian was also startled. He never thought that the Honorable Martial Alliance army would surrender. In his opinion, Honorable Martial Alliance members were usually very difficult to deal with and would fight to the death. The soldiers cried out in alarm, and there was a commotion. Vice Commander! The stronghold was being devoured at an astonishing speed. The entire Light Blade army was squeezed into a pile, like lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Everyone's faces were filled with fear and despair. They knew that once the fortress was devoured, it would be their turn. The colorful flames would devour them cleanly. For the sake of his subordinates' lives, he was willing to bear humiliation and punishment. Not everyone had such courage and bravery. That flame, what exactly was it? Everyone's heart was filled with fear. The indestructible stronghold was actually melting like ice and snow. The unknown colorful flames continued to burn, like a monster continuously devouring the stronghold. All the Honorable Martial Group martial artists in the stronghold were stunned. Everyone was startled. They subconsciously looked towards the stronghold again. Yi Shou Xian looked at him calmly, but did not say a word. High-level backbones like them had all sworn an oath to the Honorable Martial Alliance, which was equivalent to some sort of martial spirit contract. If they were to go against it, they would be punished by the trial of light. The spirit-devouring flame suddenly became sluggish, and then quickly shrunk, and the colors became even denser. Suddenly, someone noticed that Jing Yu's expression was strange. It was excited yet fearful. His entire body was trembling, and asked curiously, "Old Jing, what's wrong with you?" One of the honorable martial group martial artists' mental defenses finally collapsed. He screamed and flew out. He wanted to leave this place, leave this hell. It was not that they had never killed before, and it was not that they had never seen blood, but the terrifying scene in front of them caused their limbs to turn cold. The saints in the sky were also completely frightened by the shocking scene in front of them, their faces drained of all color. Yisho Xian nodded at him and shouted loudly. And when the trial of light blossomed from the two of them, it immediately made Tang Tian understand they were truly surrendering that they were willing to accept the punishment. That white light aura made Tang Tian feel the scent of a martial spirit contract. The current colorful flame had a name, called Spirit-Devouring Flame. Surrender. Although Yisho Xian's face was pale, but the expression on his face was the calmest out of all of them. But a pity this group of people actually surrendered. Seems like the refinement of the bronze ball had a deviation, everyone thought at the same time. No one made a fuss. The master had only stepped into the saint level for a short period of time. It was normal to make a mistake. A strange flame tongue suddenly rose up, and at this time the flame tongue was already dyed with a few colors, looking like a rainbow. And their target, the triangular region, had already disappeared without a trace. Yisho Xian looked at the hole that was continuously expanding. His entire person was dazed, his face without a trace of blood. His adjutant was frantically shouting, "Extinguish that fire! Quickly extinguish that fire!" And he had no other way. Like rain hitting a banana leaf, the bronze balls started to shatter. Everyone's spirit was roused, looking carefully, as expected, every broken bronze ball, there was a flame, but very quickly, everyone revealed a look of disappointment. These flames were almost translucent, extremely dim. Every flame was only the size of a candle, as expected. It was a small flame, no wonder no one noticed it. The adjutant was furious, but gradually, his voice became softer and softer, and finally became silent, his expression ashen. The surrounding soldiers only had despair on their faces. No one had any will to fight, even he himself did not. "Damn it! Surrender!" The adjutant was startled, and immediately said angrily, "How can we surrender? We are the Honorable Martial Alliance." But the intense fear caused them to completely lose control, and only knew to attack with all their might, until the true power in their bodies was exhausted, and they sat on the ground. Meng Ta's eyes were sharp and could not help but shout, "Quickly look, it's a small flame. What do we do?" The adjutant asked Yisho Xian, his teeth were chattering. Regardless of what attribute the attack was, when it struck the colorful flames, it was like a clay ox entering the ocean, disappearing without a trace. The spirit-devouring flame suddenly pounced towards the two of them, and swallowed them whole. Just as the crowd exclaimed, the spirit-devouring flame left the two of them, leaving the two of them unconscious. I, Yisho Xian, the commander of the Light Blade Army, represent the Light Blade Army to surrender. The stronghold's energy barrier was extremely thick, far beyond their imagination. They had already made the preparations to fight a long battle, and in their expectations, only an even more terrifying energy explosion could cause a crack in the extremely thick energy barrier. The faces of the saints in the sky all changed. Little Fool secretly felt that it was a pity. The forceful subjugating bead flew out of his body and slowly revolved. Just now, he had used the forceful subjugating bead to control the spirit-devouring flame, and swallowed the soldier who was preparing to escape. White light auras blossomed from the two of them at the same time, enveloping the two of them. This was the Honorable Martial Alliance's trial of light. When an honorable martial artist went against an oath, the trial of light would appear. The two of them revealed looks of pain, their faces contorted, their martial spirits, under the light auras, were quickly combusting. The martial artists of the Light Blade Army were like trapped beasts in a cage, they frantically escaped from their various defensive positions. The trial of light became more and more eye-catching, causing Little Fool to be even more unhappy. He snorted in his heart, the forceful subjugating bead in front of him gently revolved. The spirit-devouring flame could similarly grow by swallowing martial artists' martial spirits. If it completely swallowed the entire army, then it would definitely evolve. But the anticipated explosion did not appear, not even a bit of light aura was produced, causing everyone to be startled. I will make this decision, the trial of light will also be borne by me, Yisho Xian said indifferently. Although they had only coordinated for a short period of time, but everyone was a saint, when they attacked there was not much deviation, and almost all of the bronze balls struck the triangular target at the same time. However, at this moment, he admired this assistant of his. The spirit-devouring flame transformed into a stream of flames and flew into the forceful subjugating bead. The trial of light in their bodies was actually swallowed by the spirit-devouring flame. They did not even feel a bit of energy undulation. On the Star Treasure stronghold, there was an additional irregular hole on the glossy and complete hemispherical stronghold. It was extremely eye-catching, and also extremely ugly and terrifying. Commander! Little Fool, who was holding the umbrella, suddenly revealed a look of ecstasy. He suddenly thought of a sentence in Gui Wu's memories. Jing Yu's voice trembled a little. He cultivated a pupil-type spirit technique. When he first saw those little flames, he was also a little surprised. Habitually, he used his pupil-type spirit technique to take a look and was immediately stunned. The panicking Light Blade Army soldiers appeared in front of everyone, as well as Yisho Xian and Mo Lei, who were enveloped by two balls of white light. The trial of light did not cause people to die. Its most terrifying aspect was that it would make traitors suffer a fate worse than death. No one's face had a trace of blood. They stared blankly at the roiling rainbow flames above their heads. It was like an unbridled monster that could never eat its fill. Those flames are terrifying. The saints in the sky seemed to have awoken from a dream, their gazes all turned to look at Tang Tian. Little Fool, who was unresigned, was unhappy, and seeing the trial of light flaunting its might, he became even more unhappy. Little Fool was not willing to accept their surrender, but he was unable to go against Tang Tian's orders. This thought caused them to tremble in fear. Powerful? For such a small flame to burn such a gigantic stronghold, how long would it take? The sixth senses of saints were extremely sharp. They were able to sense the extremely dangerous energy undulation inside the bronze balls, but no one had thought that there would not even be a single explosion. Could it be a misconception? Pa pa pa! Tang Tian shouted. Who? Chapter 532. He was the closest blood saint in history to successfully possessing a body, but it was a pity that he met with Tang Tian, the zero-energy body, and was unlucky. Little Fool was dumbstruck, his face filled with shock. The Honorable Martial Alliance had not had any defections for over 300 years, especially when the two most important figures of the army announced their defection. The spirit-devouring flame enveloped the trial of light, but not only was the spirit-devouring flame unable to suppress the trial of light, it was constantly being corroded by the trial of light. The entire Light Blade Army had defected. Gui Wu had made ample preparations. The Dawn Army had been completely wiped out. The third Gold Branch's imprisonment had attracted the attention of the other Gold Branches. Very quickly, the news of Mo Lei's betrayal spread out, causing an uproar in the Honorable Martial Alliance. All the martial artists who had interacted with Mo Lei did not believe the news. In everyone's eyes, even if it was the last person to fight for the Honorable Martial Alliance, it might not be Mo Lei, but in the last 1,000 people to fight for the Honorable Martial Alliance, Mo Lei would definitely be there. As long as anyone betrayed the martial group, the trial of light would be activated, burning the traitor's martial spirit, causing him to suffer the pain of purgatory. For the sake of punishment, the trial of light would not immediately kill the traitor, but would continuously burn them, making them unable to live or die. This process would last for up to 72 years. In these 72 years, the traitor would not even be able to commit suicide, and could only wail day and night, and only after 72 years would his body and spirit be completely destroyed. Exactly how many laws did he gain enlightenment on? This was the gold branch that he had placed his hopes on? With a thought, the gray light ball suddenly lit up. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the golden rune chains were pulled, sigh sigh, the golden sand slowly flowed, the rune light ball rotated, the vast sea of laws slowly awoke from its long slumber. The Battle of the Saints was the main show. Every saint, the various elders, the important figures of the army, the backbones of the branches, would be required to swear absolute loyalty to the martial group, and every oath ceremony would plant the trial of light in their martial spirit. He stared blankly at the regiment of light auras floating around him. The light auras were like stars, floating in the void. Inside the ball of light, one could faintly see all sorts of ancient book fragments, crystal test tube fragments, all sorts of colored fragments, and the limbs of unknown star spirit beasts. Although Little Fool did not know what the light of judgment was, he felt an intense sense of danger. The spirit-devouring flame's light aura became weaker and weaker, while the trial of light became purer and gentler. An even stronger sense of danger enveloped Little Fool. He knew he could not wait any longer. However, the power of time still couldn't be resisted. Although the forceful subjugating bead that he refined could continuously nourish the saint's soul, but his saint's soul was still constantly weakening. Meanwhile, his collection and works also gradually turned to ashes. This was the power of time. It flowed silently and slowly, yet couldn't be reversed. It was cold and merciless. However, the prerequisite was that he could defeat the light of trial. The formation of the gold-ranked armies could not be said to be a failure, but it was obvious that they were not enough to make the higher-ups of the Honorable Martial Alliance feel at ease. Treasure. The waiter's eyes suddenly lit up with a demonic light. Of the 12 gold branches of the Honorable Martial Alliance, 5 had already suffered heavy losses. Following the progression of the war, the relationship between the armies and saints not only did they not alienate each other, but instead became even closer. If Little Fool was alone, he would definitely not touch the trial of light, even if he had to give up on the spirit-devouring flame. He would not feel that it was a pity. Although the value of the 2,000 star treasures was astonishing, but now that he knew how to refine them, with Tang Tian's current wealth, he could once again refine a new spirit-devouring flame. Mo Lei inherited his father's dying wish, and entered the 3rd gold branch, and quickly displayed astonishing talent and bravery, displaying extremely outstanding performance in the consecutive battles. He was the gold-ranked martial artist with the highest battle achievements in the entire 3rd gold branch, and because of his outstanding performance, he was nominated to be Yi Shou Xian's assistant during the formation of the Light Blade Army. Martial Spirit Chamber. Inside the forceful subjugating bead, another intense battle was in a deadlock, and the raging Inferno army had already been requested to stop advancing and wait for the saints behind to converge. In a short period of time, 3 armies consecutively disappeared, which also meant that the 3 gold branches had suffered heavy losses. The Red Leaf Army belonged to the 10th gold branch, the Dawn Army belonged to the 11th gold branch, and the Light Blade Army belonged to the 3rd gold branch. And adding on the 9th gold branch that was destroyed by Leo Constellation, and the 7th gold branch that was heavily damaged. In the past, when the Honorable Martial Alliance established the 12 gold branches, they were extremely ambitious, and from the number 12, it could be seen that the gold branches were once viewed by the Honorable Martial Alliance as the backbone to fight against the 12 ecliptic palaces. Even after the establishment of the temple, the honorable martial elders still placed high hopes on the 12 gold branches. The gold martial group maintained an extremely cruel competition. The gold-ranked martial artists that they groomed all had powerful fighting capabilities, which made the honorable martial elders extremely assured. It was because of his meticulous preparations that he did not go crazy, and instead, in the long years, he experimented with all sorts of new ideas, and left behind a large number of works. Little Fool regained his senses from the shock. He suppressed the excitement in his heart. He knew, if they could not win against the Trial of Light, then it would be dangerous. Ever since the creation of the Trial of Light, it had become a weapon to consolidate the rule of the Honorable Martial Alliance. And from then on, there were very few cases of the Honorable Martial Alliance defecting. Many of the Honorable Martial Alliance would rather commit suicide, or perish together with the enemy, than to surrender. This also caused the Honorable Martial Artists to be extremely brave and crazy in battle, and the various large constellations were not willing to fight with them. The third gold branch was the first to bear the brunt. Yuli was suspended, the vice president was suspended, and all the gold-ranked martial artists faced imprisonment and investigation. Very quickly, the relevant information regarding Yi Shou Xin and Mo Lei was sent to the hands of every honorable martial elder. From the information, Yi Shou Xin was fine. He was not born in the orthodox Honorable Martial Alliance. But Mo Lei was a genuine honorable martial artist. His body flowed with the most orthodox honorable martial bloodline. His father was an old man of the third gold branch, and was sacrificed in a battle. From Gui Wu's memories, he knew how to activate the forceful subjugating orb, and also knew that the forceful subjugating orb was definitely not a vessel for a saint spirit, but he never thought that it would be so magnificent inside. Every light ball was an independent space, although the majority of the treasures inside had already been destroyed to ashes, but just the remaining remnants, to them, was still a vast and unimaginably huge treasure trove. Out of the remaining 7 gold branches, the most anxious one was the 5th gold branch that the Raging Inferno army belonged to. Out of the 4 armies that fought with the Ursa Major constellation, only the Raging Inferno army was left. Little Fool's entire body lit up with a faint light aura, and called out to the depths of the void. A gray transparent light ball suddenly appeared from the void, and arrived in front of Little Fool. Without hesitation, Little Fool stepped into the light ball. The Honorable Martial Alliance's rage could be imagined. He did not know that Gui Wu knew that time was long, and that he did not know when he would be able to possess another body, so his saint spirit had to stay in the forceful subjugating orb for a long period of time. In the long river of time, loneliness itself was the greatest enemy. If there was nothing to do, after a long time, one would go crazy, and that had nothing to do with willpower. Little Fool was suddenly filled with confidence. Without hesitation, he threw himself into the forceful subjugating orb. Little Fool was once again shocked by the spectacular scene in front of him. Is that one of the 3 blood saints of Onyx Soul? Inside the forceful subjugating orb, there was actually such an astonishing treasure trove. When the news spread to the Honorable Martial Alliance, it caused a huge uproar. Adding the Red Leaf Army, it was already the 2nd army to be completely annihilated. On the battlefield, it was extremely rare for an entire army to be annihilated, because it meant that both sides had an insurmountable disparity in strength. After fighting with the Leo constellation for so long, the number of times an entire army was annihilated was not as many as the number of times they fought with the Ursa Major constellation. It was his first time entering the forceful subjugating orb, and he only felt his vision turning dark, as though he was being pulled into an endless void. Just that. Wars could often change people's perception. The Honorable Martial Alliance did not make any further moves. They were waiting for the Raging Inferno army and the 10 saints to converge, waiting for the 15 saints from Temple to fight with the independent saints led by Tang Tian. But after knowing the situation inside, Little Fool threw the thought of giving up to the back of his head. In the eyes of the honorable martial elders, Mo could be said to be the most direct descendant of the honorable martial artist, and was the most trustworthy honorable martial artist. His loyalty was unquestionable. If even Mo, a martial artist with the blood of the honorable martial artist, would betray them, then who wouldn't? Then let's use the victory of this battle as a sacrifice to Senior Gui Wu. But what truly shocked the honorable martial alliance was not the annihilation of the entire army, but the betrayal of the Light Blade army. The scene in front of him changed once again. To be able to control the army, and maintain the absolute loyalty of the entire army to the Honorable Martial Alliance, the Honorable Martial Alliance had gone through many generations of sages to research and create the Trial of Light. How could such a person betray them? The reason why the Dawn army was annihilated was because of one important reason, and that was because they were alone and blindly rushed in, without the protection of saints. They were swallowed by the enemy's mechanical army. This conclusion received the approval of many people. The space inside the forceful subjugating bead was extremely huge, and in the void, Gui Wu opened up many independent spaces. All these independent spaces stored all sorts of collections that Gui Wu had when he was alive. There were records, collections, countless of them. And, to pass the time, Gui Wu even moved his own blood meridian's laboratory inside, so that when he was bored, he could continue his own experiments. Dense and boundless golden talisman markings floated in the sky. They were either strung together to form golden chains, or gathered together to form balls of light. They had a variety of different shapes, or were like quicksand or seaweed. They silently floated in every corner of the sky, and the end couldn't be seen with a single glance. But at that moment, he could not care about anything else. The gray light ball was the final hiding place of the forceful subjugating bead, and was also the final hub to control the forceful subjugating bead. But, out of the 12 gold branches, in the blink of an eye, only 7 remained. Chapter 533. One per person is enough. Little Fool was initially unwilling, but after thinking about it, if he were to give them the spirit-devouring flame, then he would not need to refine spirit treasures for them. To the spirit-devouring flame, the Trial of Light's law core was of a higher level, and that was the only way for it to have a qualitative leap. The runes that had nowhere to run blossomed with white light, and the light dots that were closest to it were constantly being destroyed. But the number of firefly lights was too astonishing. They were slowly closing in, and the white light's range was constantly being compressed. Spirit-devouring blood group. Emole's face changed. Everyone's face changed. Meng Ta could not help but ask, "How long more?" But in front of the sea of fireflies, the Trial of Light was so small, so dim, so insignificant. All the firefly light auras flew towards the spirit-devouring flame from all directions. Just as Tang Tian was troubled, Yi Shou Xin and Mo Lei, who were unconscious, woke up. The Light Blade Army's low morale was roused. Many of the martial artists who were at a loss found their backbone and calmed down. To be willing to endure the Trial of Light for their subordinates, Yi Shou Xin and Mo Lei used their actions to gain the recognition of the entire Light Blade Army. Every single wave of the Sea of Laws was silent, but in Little Fool's heart, it was like thunder, rumbling and surging. The current might of the spirit-devouring flame was already comparable to Fu Ying's full-force attack, and if the enemy was an honorable martial alliance, its might would increase by several folds. That also meant, from now on, Little Fool, who possessed the spirit-devouring flame, would become the natural enemy of the honorable martial saints. Tang Tian was startled, then replied, "Oh, so it's like that." Little Fool's mind was shaken. The current him was like a canoe in the ocean, lost in the vast ocean. He was like a speck of dust. A strange look flashed past Little Fool's eyes. He closed his eyes, and carefully felt the spirit-devouring flame, his delicate face revealing a look of ecstasy. And because it was used against saints and higher-ups, the Trial of Light was extremely destructive against light attribute spirit techniques and light attribute true power. In the air, there was only a fingernail-sized white flame. The flame did not have any attributes, but it released a cold might. The severely injured spirit-devouring flame seemed to have smelled something delicious, suddenly transforming into a line of fire, swiftly swallowing this ball of white flame. The spirit-devouring flame's spirit value was currently 260 points. Although the spirit-devouring flame was powerful, but according to Gui Wu's records, when its spirit value rose to 190 points, devouring star treasures would be difficult to increase, and only by devouring some special martial spirits, saint spirits, would it be able to step into the silver rank. "Tell me about it," little Air said in a childish voice. His exquisite and beautiful baby face had an aged look, making people laugh. Specks of light that looked like fireflies slowly rose from the sea of laws. Billions of specks of light rose from the golden sea of laws and gathered into a sea of light. Tang Tian did not have time to care about Little Fool. He was flustered. The surrendered Light Blade army was also a troublesome matter. Suddenly, an exclamation sounded out. The one who exclaimed was a saint called Dian Gu. He was the only bloodline saint here, and his eyes were filled with excitement. Yi Shou Xin and Mo Lei had complicated expressions on their faces. The two of them were prepared to die, but they did not expect that they would still be alive. Yi Shou Xin quickly regained his composure. He was not a direct descendant of the martial group, and did not acknowledge the honorable martial alliance so strongly. Compared to him, Mo Lei's expression was much dimmer. Temple. 15 saints. Yi Shou Xin, who had regained his composure, reminded Tang Tian. The 15 saints from Temple will be here soon, please be prepared. Is it very powerful? Tang Tian's face was filled with dissatisfaction. Hey, we have so many people, 43 to 15, what are you afraid of? 100 of them. Little Fool replied. He had previously refined 100 of them, and was already extremely familiar with them, adding that his understanding of the spirit-devouring flame had deepened. It was easier to refine them. The spirit-devouring flame's light aura erupted. The multicolored halo flickered incessantly. The spirit-devouring flame's killing intent slowly disappeared, and what replaced it was an awe-inspiring aura. No wonder Little Fool was so happy. One had to admit, the trial of light was truly powerful. If not for the forceful subjugating bead that Gui Wu left behind, Little Fool would not be able to win against the trial of light. The trial of light was stripped away by the forceful subjugating bead, leaving behind the most fundamental law core, which became the spirit-devouring flame's nourishment. In the next moment, the billions of light dots slowly sunk down, entering the vast sea of laws, and the sea of laws regained its calmness. Little Fool reminded them. It is called spirit-devouring flame, but it is best that you feed it more star treasures, the more powerful it becomes. If it was just refined, the spirit value would be too low, and it would be hard to harm a saint. It had broken through the 200 points threshold, which meant that the spirit-devouring flame was a silver-grade spirit treasure. And, because it had swallowed the trial of light, the spirit-devouring flame had an even more astonishing destructive power against the Honorable Martial Alliance's spirit technique. Not everyone had the qualifications to obtain the trial of light. It was used to control the higher-ups and saints of the Honorable Martial Alliance. Ordinary gold-ranked martial artists did not even have the qualifications to be planted with the trial of light, and people like Jing Hao, when he defected, he was not even a gold-ranked martial artist. Yi Shou Xin and Mo Lei were stunned. They looked at Tang Tian strangely. Disguise? That's possible. Although Dian Gu was excited, but he still looked at Little Fool and did not reply. The Light Blade Army's morale was extremely low. The two masters were still unconscious, and they were like a group of dragons without a leader. The biggest problem was, they still could not accept the fact that they had surrendered. The pride bestowed to them by the Honorable Martial Alliance had long seeped into their bones. In their eyes, Tang Tian and the rest were just a group of peasants. Dian Gu said, The spirit-devouring flame was created by a blood meridian saint, Su Ji Sun. This blood meridian saint was not from Onyx Soul, but an independent saint. Because he offended the Honorable Martial Alliance, he was chased after, and this person found a group of independent saints, and taught them the spirit-devouring flame, and asked them to swear a saint oath not to spread it. This group of people is the spirit-devouring blood group. If only Uncle Bing was here, Tang Tian thought, but now that Uncle Bing was not here, and Meng Ta and the rest were not proficient in such matters, Tang Tian had no choice but to bite the bullet. The sea of fireflies' light aura shone on Little Fool's face, revealing the shock and fear on his face. It was extremely clear. Tang Tian did not expect the Light Blade army to surrender, and was unprepared, and was caught unprepared. Since the other party had surrendered, they could not possibly kill all of them. Then how to settle the Light Blade army immediately became a huge problem. That's great, then each person will have two. Tang Tian felt that it was a good idea. They were defeated by a group of peasants, and they surrendered. Tang Tian scratched his chin and started to think. At most half a day. The one who spoke was Mo, although his heart was filled with pain, but at that moment he knew, if Tang Tian and the rest were defeated, the fate of the Light Blade army would be massacred. Hundreds of millions of law runes, like a vast ocean, slowly swayed. Their speed was extremely slow, extremely leisurely. The trial of light became even more fearful. Suddenly its light aura converged, converging into a white rune, and escaped from the spirit-devouring flame. Ha 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 ha! Spirit-devouring flame? Little Two waved his hand, and the spirit-devouring flame flew into his palm. The curve of his mouth became bigger and bigger, until he laughed out loud. The trial of light seemed to have sensed danger. Suddenly the light aura expanded, frantically corroding the spirit-devouring flame. Tang Tian did not know of Temple's prestige, but the others were extremely clear, and those who heard of it all had a change in expression. Kill one to warn 100. The two of them were true men. The spirit-devouring flame's colors gradually dimmed, and became translucent again. It quietly floated in the air, without any dangerous aura. The higher-ups would definitely punish the Light Blade army harshly. Mo even suspected that even death would not be able to atone for their sins. He did not know why he agreed to Yi Shou Xian's decision. Was it because he was afraid of death? He knew it was not. As compared to the trial of light, death was much more comfortable. To be able to lay down such a foundation, how could he be a fool? How could he not have any shrewdness? Suddenly Yi Shou Xian spoke out. The bronze ball that Master used just now is a unique weapon. The individual strength of the Light Blade army was not weak, and if they were not careful, it could easily lead to a disaster. He patted the shoulders of the two of them and said sincerely, "From now on we are all brothers." The rune was submerged by the firefly lights. The white light became dimmer and dimmer, until it disappeared. But no matter how he rushed to the left and right, the endless void had no end. This result was a huge blow to them. No one hated the two masters, because the trial of light was blossoming right in front of them, and the two masters were willing to receive the trial of light, all for them. Is it very powerful? Meng Ta asked curiously. Meng Ta was considered one of the most powerful people out of all of them, and if even he said that he did not have a grasp of it, then the rest were even more inferior. All saints wanted face. If the difference was not too big, they would definitely not admit that they were weaker. The white rune was extremely fast. It frantically rushed to the left and right, trying to find a way to escape. Was this seemingly stupid fellow really the godlike young lad that appeared out of nowhere? The firefly lights around it increased. It became more and more frightened, and more crazy, but no matter which direction it flew to, there were light dots everywhere, and it was completely surrounded. Bang! Tang Tian slapped his thigh. That's right, the spirit-devouring flame was a type of half a spirit treasure, so it could cause harm to saints. Tang Tian immediately summoned Little Fool. Little fool, if you start to refine bombs now, how many can you make in half a day? His childish laughter was filled with evil intent and craziness. Tang Tian was overjoyed, in truth. He admired the two of them. Everyone nodded their heads. Meng Ta also said, "That's right, that flame is extremely harmful to saints." Meng Ta saw that Tang Tian was blindly optimistic, and could only reveal his own weakness. "Master, we are all independent saints, compared to the saints from temple, regardless of equipment or strength, we are lacking." Countless of light dots, like a tide, from all directions, slowly closed in on it. Chapter 534. Mo Lei's face darkened. Such an evil organization. The silver shield pierced into the ground heavily, a dull sound, as though it was tofu. Mo Lei's body staggered. Mo Lei did not believe in evil, holding onto the shield with both hands, all the true power in his body surged. He exhaled and roared. The huge shield slowly left the ground, and when it was 3 inches from the ground, it stopped in the air. Mo Lei's face was flushed red, veins popping out. Obviously he was using all his strength. "That's right." Little Fool could not help but exclaim. Bang! "What is a tyrant? This is a real tyrant." Tang Tian's face was full of envy, his eyes red. As the saying goes, without becoming a saint, one does not know what poverty is. Once upon a time, he thought that he had finally made some achievements, climbed to a certain height, and finally became rich, but when he stepped into the saint level, he realized how laughable his thoughts were. Such a heavy shield! Mo Lei was surprised. He stood up and walked to the front of the silver shield. He tried to lift it, but he could not, and the surprise on his face grew. "I know." Mo Lei lowered his head and said. Picking a suitable weapon, Tang Tian did not linger, since these treasures would not run away. "What I know is different from what you know." Dian Gu's face revealed a look of ridicule. "What I know is, the Honorable Martial Alliance wanted to obtain the spirit-devouring flame, but was rejected by Su Ji Sun, so they pinned a crime on Su Ji Sun and chased after him. Su Ji Sun's entire family, all died in the hands of the Honorable Martial Alliance. Su Ji Sun was inconsolable, so he started to look for the independent saints who were chased by the Honorable Martial Alliance, and formed the spirit-devouring blood group. They only have one goal, and that is to seek revenge from the Honorable Martial Alliance. Ah Xing, today we killed another Honorable Martial Alliance saint. When everyone was eating, we talked about the rumors outside, and everyone knew that it was the Honorable Martial Alliance's doing. What do the people outside think of us? Who would care? But to be able to make the Honorable Martial Alliance so nervous, it truly makes people happy. I have already found some clues about the person who hurt you. I will definitely take revenge for you. I dreamed of you last night, and you were still so beautiful. I'll visit you soon. What kind of flowers do you like? How about the irises? Oh, and onion rings, those are your favorite. Mo Lei's face turned pale. He stood there in a daze, as if he had lost his soul. He grabbed the shield with one hand and couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. The shield looked like a thin sheet of iron, but it was shockingly heavy in his hand. If not for Tang Tian's zero-energy body, with outstanding strength, he might not even be able to lift the shield. If it's extinguished, can you fire another round? He shot a glance at Mori, feeling some sympathy in his heart. There was nothing more painful than the collapse of one's belief. To him, that hatred was far away. Everyone fed him and teased him at the same time. The adults were not around anyway. Not only Mo Lei, Meng Ta and the rest's faces also changed. They might not know about the soul-devouring flame, but how could they not know about the infamous soul-devouring blood group? It's the soul-devouring flame. Yi Shoshin and Mo Lei sat on the ground. Your current appearance will cause the soldiers to panic. Yi Shoshin reminded. The notes were passed around in everyone's hands. Everyone became quiet. Who knows, we might be able to find some good things. Tang Tian's face was full of desire. Looking at the light balls, he drooled. What 3 blood saints? He had never heard of them before. Only when he personally saw the things that Gui Wu had left behind did Tang Tian truly understand how powerful and unfathomable Gui Wu was in the past. Little Fool was more interested in the ancient records, while Tang Tian was more interested in the treasures that were left behind. Ah Xing, I am coming to see you. I am so happy. Ah Xing, I killed 26 honorable martial alliance saints. I did not kill anyone else. Not a single one. Ah Xing, you know I am very cowardly. I just want to take revenge for you. No one else has it. Old Su is also in a miserable state. I wonder if he can hold on. It's good that he died. Mo Lei was an outstanding gold-ranked martial artist. He was not far from being bestowed as a saint. But he could not lift the shield. Mo Lei raised his head and laughed bitterly. Don't tell me you think that we still have a chance to live? That is the temple. Little Fool did not think that the spirit-devouring flame would have such a huge reputation. But thinking about it, it was true. If it was an ordinary item, how could it enter the eyes of a powerful martial artist like Senior Gui Wu? Ah Xiang is dead. He wanted us to devour his saint's spirit before he died. He said that he still wants to fight with us. He said that he is going to see his son. He is very happy. He told us not to cry. But why can't my tears stop? Why am I still so cowardly? Ah Xing, if I die, I will also be happy. Then I can be with you. Old Su said that it's just the few of us. We will fight to the death. Ah Xing, maybe I will meet up with you soon. But you have to bless me. Kill a few more honorable martial alliance saints. If not for them, we will definitely be very happy. Mo Lei did not retreat. He stared at Dian Gu. The spirit-devouring blood group specializes in devouring the saint spirits of saints. The number of saints that died in their hands is countless. They kill for fun. Isn't that evil? Yi Shou Xian looked at the dejected Mo Lei. What? Are you hurt? Actually, it doesn't matter. Anyways, we have already become the traitors of the Honorable Martial Alliance. Although he did not want to expose Mo Lei's scars. But, thinking about the battle that was about to happen, he decided to make things clear. Tang Tian and Little Fool ran into the forceful subjugating bead. His face was filled with shock. Tang Tian's eyes lit up. He placed the big shield in front of him. After inspecting it carefully, the big shield was in perfect condition. Good stuff. Tang Tian immediately revealed a look of joy. His fist was not weak at all. After waving it around a few times, he felt that it was suitable for him. Tang Tian then kept it. Everyone looked at Little Fool with blazing eyes. No one knew the origin of the spirit-devouring blood group. It was an extremely mysterious organization. What it was related to was killing and devouring spirit. In everyone's impression, it was an extremely dangerous, savage, and bloodthirsty organization. Dian Gu was expressionless. I am the descendant of the members of the spirit-devouring blood group. I have the diary that they left behind. On it are all the records of the people they killed. Do you want to take a look? Although Mo Lei was not a blood meridian saint, but his strength was not small. Nonsense. Mo Lei glared angrily. Dian Gu's words and the diary were more effective than anything else. Not only did everyone not reject the spirit-devouring flame, they were instead filled with anticipation. Everyone had heard of the spirit-devouring blood group's ferocious name. One could imagine the might of the spirit-devouring flame. From the diary, it could be seen that for one person to kill 26 saints from the temple, such a battle record could definitely be called glorious. Spirit treasures were scattered all over the ground. Most of them had already decayed and disappeared. Only a few were still in good condition. The most eye-catching one was a large silver shield. Dian Gu's expression did not change much. He had already read this diary many times. His mentality was very good. He spread out his hands and said, "Don't look at me like that. After so many generations, the soul-devouring blood group has already disappeared for many years. The hatred has also long dissipated into thin air. I just want to tell you that the spirit-devouring flame is not that evil. The group of people all held onto a star treasure. Facing the little flame in front of them, they were extremely careful, as though they were feeding a pet. With Tang Tian's pitiful knowledge, he was unable to see the material of the shield. The diary could not be fake. The pages had already turned yellow. It had experienced many years. Especially when Tang Tian thought about it. There was going to be an intense battle soon. Finding a suitable spirit treasure was more important than anything else. The first place Tang Tian went to was the weapon room. Gui Wu's collection was not little. Although many of them had already turned into ashes, there were still many that remained. Tell me about Sanctum. I am so poor. The first thing Tang Tian saw was the silver shield. Ah Xing, today's battle was truly bitter. Midar City was destroyed by us. The Honorable Martial Alliance used civilians as bait. We all knew that they would do that. But we never expected that they would find out so quickly that we would not take action against civilians. Ah Xiang was injured. He was lured to the children's hospital and was ambushed. He did not take action. He thought about his dead son. He was heavily injured. Xiaopa saved him. God bless him and let him live. Ah Xing, I miss you. I drank so much wine. Why am I not drunk? This flame is too small. Will it really not extinguish? Emole subconsciously took it and flipped it open. Flipping through the pages, his face turned green. Dian Gu interrupted coldly. How is it evil? Yishou Xian was speechless. Tang Tian took a look at the shield. His intuition was extremely sharp. Although the shield looked extremely gaudy, but he could sense a faint qi from it. He tried punching the shield. Bang, a loud sound came out. The shield trembled and a ripple flashed. Tang Tian felt as though he had punched something slippery. His strength was immediately diverted. Interesting. A voice came out from behind. Tang Tian carried a gigantic silver shield and walked in front of the two of them. Tang Tian casually stuck the silver shield into the ground. Bang, dirt flew out and the ground trembled. Yishou Xian was shocked. Dian Gu took out an old notebook and passed it to Emole. One big and one small, one human and one spirit, they split up, each searching for their own interesting things. The silver shield was extremely large, over 3 m tall. It was shaped like a gigantic leaf, and the surface of the shield was covered with fine grass and wood carvings, shining with silver light. Just that the shield was extremely thin, like a thin layer of metal. No matter how one looked at it, it looked like an ornament and not a spirit treasure. Little Fool's thoughts were all on the treasures inside the forceful subjugating bead. He did not have the heart to tangle with these people. He quickly refined a copper ball for each of them, and then told them how to use it. He then went back into the forceful subjugating bead. The handwriting of the last paragraph of the notes was crooked and intermittent. Master Little Fool will give you a solid blow. Emole was startled. Chapter 535. Voila, a pile of things poured out from the cloth bag. Oh my God! Meng Ta stopped talking. Wait a minute. The weight of the silver shield caused everyone to suck in a breath of cold air. The bronze saints of the temple are far more powerful than ordinary independent saints. Emole looked at Meng Ta and the rest. This treasure mountain could at least give everyone 500 star treasures, although the highest was only a silver rank, but it was extremely nourishing to the spirit-devouring flame. Yishou Xian observed for a long time, then suddenly thought of something and blurted out, "Silver-lined heavy shield. This is the silver-lined heavy shield." This small mountain of star treasures had at least 10,000 pieces. What kind of person would carry 10,000 pieces of star treasures with him? Without saying a word, Tang Tian took out all his star treasures and threw them to them. Use them all. Emole was enlightened and nodded his head. If it's the silver-lined heavy shield, then it's possible. Meng Ta walked over. How powerful is it? Hurry up, Tang Tian urged. Yishou Xian and Meng Ta looked at each other. But the rest of them were not. Yisho Xin watched in fear. He suddenly felt that the bronze saints of the temple, if they were to be careless, they would be in big trouble. Meng Ta and the rest were completely shocked by the words of the nouveau riche. They suddenly realized, it was as if they were sitting on a very thick thigh. Meng Ta kept his spirit-devouring flame, and exclaimed, "This is the first time in my life that I feel so good I can die without regrets." Tang Tian's gaze swept across the spirit-devouring flame in everyone's hands. He raised his head and asked Meng Ta, "How much spirit value does the spirit-devouring flame have?" Everyone's spirit-devouring flame was expanding rapidly. Tang Tian turned to look at the saints who had stopped. "You guys have finished too?" There was only one thought in his mind, so the legendary word was actually possible. "How powerful are the saints of the temple?" Tang Tian asked curiously. Emole kept on spitting out names that Yisho Xin was familiar with, and gradually Yisho Xin became numb. That feeling was like being in a museum of the highest level, listening to a senior guide explain those priceless cultural relics. Yisho Xin's expression was sluggish as he looked at the spirit treasures on the floor. His mind was blank, and there was only one sentence in his mind: "This is not real, this is not real, this is not real." He stared blankly at the pile of multicolored spirit treasures, expressionless like a machine. Autumn leaf spear. Sky wheel. That looks a little like the black mirror of a swan. Distant triangle star dart. Azure back hair. This one's shape is very strange, I seem to have some impression. They were all independent saints and were very poor. They did not have many secret treasures on them. Meng Ta and the rest cheered and rushed towards the treasure mountain. Wow, so powerful! Such a standard indeed killed all of them in an instant. Among these saints, none of them had a spirit value exceeding 300 points. A spirit treasure with spirit value above 160 points. Aha, today's weather is really good. Beside him, another saint was trembling all over, clutching his chest while trembling. Is my heart beating so fast? I can't take it anymore. Give me a slap. Just at that moment, Tang Tian appeared in front of everyone again, carrying a big sack. Emole could hear the dissatisfaction in Meng Ta's tone, but he was not moved, and said, "The standard for a bronze saint of the temple is a spirit value of at least 300 points. Attack spirit techniques must not be lower than 120 points. Saints who do not reach the standard are just trainee saints of the temple. And upon becoming a bronze saint, the lowest equipment is at least a spirit treasure with a spirit value of 100 points. In fact, other than the newcomers who have just entered the temple, their spirit treasures are all above 150 points. Many of them hugged their heads with both hands, clutching their hair tightly. Their faces were filled with fear, as though they had seen a monster. Emole looked at Tang Tian as though he was looking at an idiot. Why did this guy keep asking such childish questions? But he still answered dutifully. The saints of the temple are also divided into gold, silver and bronze. The 15 saints that were sent this time are all bronze saints. This spirit-devouring flame is really special. It is actually not restricted by the spirit domain's spirit value. Jingyu's face was filled with joy. Armed to the teeth, Meng Ta laughed out loud. From today onwards, the shotguns will be replaced with cannons. Furthermore, if I knew earlier, I would have brought more was a very normal sentence, but to say it in front of a mountain of treasures, it was extremely domineering. Dian Gu opened his eyes and explained, "Because the spirit-devouring flame does not have a body, Yin and Yang gave birth to the spirit fire, and the spirit fire already possesses some simple life characteristics. And after swallowing the treasures, the spirit fire continuously evolves. From a certain point of view, the life characteristics are even more obvious. It has intelligence, and everyone's spirit-devouring flame is different." Emole sighed in his heart. Going to the temple was once his dream, but he did not expect that there would be a day where he would become the target of the temple's extermination. Everyone's frozen and stiff face reflected all sorts of gorgeous and resplendent light auras. Everyone's breathing were all different kinds of undulations, to the point of suffocation. Let's see what we can use. Silver-lined heavy shield? It was the first time Tang Tian heard of this name. The Honorable Martial Alliance's army actually lost to others in terms of money. This guy is actually the master of Aquarius constellation in disguise. Who exactly is the rich and powerful? But Yi Shou Xian was thinking even more. He was acutely aware, as long as there were enough treasures, they could greatly strengthen the spirit-devouring flame. Like Meng Ta and the rest, their current fighting strength had increased by leaps and bounds, and had a qualitative leap. He had used a lot of treasures, a total of more than 1,000 pieces. Mo was also completely crazy. Is there really something wrong with this guy's brain? A small mountain piled up in front of everyone. Is Ursa Major constellation already so rich? No one noticed. In such a short period of time, Tang Tian turned and disappeared. Mo and Yi Shou Xian looked at Tang Tian in a daze. Many of the Light Blade Army people looked at Meng Ta and the rest in envy. Spirit treasures with a spirit value of 100 points and above were extremely expensive, an astronomical figure. Furthermore, for a famous and practical spirit treasure like the spirit-devouring flame, it was not limited by the spirit value. If they were to sell it, it would definitely be sold for a sky-high price. It was truly powerful. Little Fool's spirit value had just broken through 100 points, but adding graceful sword and the spirit-devouring flame, they still had a fighting chance. Although their voices were soft, but saints naturally had extraordinary hearing. Meng Ta and the rest could hear everything, and many of them stopped. Yi Shou Xian quivered, and suddenly regained his senses from the shock. There were no heavy gasps, only intermittent gasps that sounded like they could die at any time. But Tang Tian did not forget the most important matter, and asked, "Tell me about Temple. How are the strength of this batch of saints?" Temple is the strongest organization in the Honorable Martial Alliance. They are all formed by saints, their positions are aloof, and no one can order them. Even the Honorable Martial Clan elders, when they need help from Temple, can only ask for help from Temple. I don't know if it is enough. I should have brought more, Tang Tian said in a vexed tone. All of the star treasures were Tang Tian's spoils of war. Many of them had already been given to Handtowel and Pai Pa to handle, but there were still a few left. Every time he said a name, Yi Shou Xian's body would twitch. The entire Light Blade army had only managed to gather 2,000 star treasures, and made a star treasure stronghold, but now that they saw Tang Tian casually taking out a mountain of star treasures, the impact was so intense that it made the entire Light Blade army speechless. Oh, anyway, it's not mine. The spirit-devouring flame was extremely strong, but even so, 500 star treasures still took an entire hour. Meng Ta and the rest all had joyous faces. The current spirit value of their spirit-devouring flame was already over 160 points, and the lowest was over 110 points. Meng Ta's hands were also trembling. He muttered to himself with a trembling voice, calm down, for someone like me who has seen the world, how can I be so ugly? Isn't it just a pile of spirit treasures? How many lives have I not seen spirit treasures? Damn it, don't tell me I have already died and reached heaven. So that's how it is. Tang Tian was overjoyed. It was obvious, after hearing Yi Shou Xian's words, the silver-lined heavy shield had a great history, and was not ordinary. Meng Ta said angrily, 80 spirit value, the star treasures are all used up. All of the treasures, that gorgeous light aura, all sorts of different undulations. If fighting strength could be expressed in numbers, then Meng Ta and the rest of the saints' numbers would be jumping crazily, a patch of blood red. Meng Ta and the rest's eyes were all red. Even Yi Shou Xian, who was always indifferent, had his mouth wide open, a face full of disbelief as he looked at the small mountain of treasures in front of him. Tang Tian's eyes opened wide, his eyebrows knitted together, his face full of displeasure. Bronze Saint? Humph, are you looking down on us? A saint's face suddenly flushed red, his face as red as a ripe persimmon. He muttered with a face full of fear, "Am I poisoned? Such an illusion can appear, so many spirit treasures. Is this a heart demon? So scary. This. How many are there?" Only then did everyone reveal a look of realization. Very powerful. Tang Tian rubbed his chin, deep in thought. Yes. All used up. Not a single one left. In Yi Shou Xian's eyes suddenly appeared the scene of the saints, their entire body covered in treasures, appearing majestically. Yi Shou Xian saw that Tang Tian still did not understand, and explained. The silver-lined heavy shield is a rather famous spirit treasure. About 6,000 years ago, there was a group of saints, called Saint Shield. They were the most proficient in refining and using shield-type spirit treasures. The silver-lined heavy shield was their most famous spirit treasure, and was also their standard equipment. It was shaped like a leaf, extremely exquisite. The surface of the shield was big but not thick, and was extremely heavy. The silver-lined heavy shield, the world's most famous, it is something that all the shield saints dream of. Although I have heard of it, but I have never seen the real thing. I never thought that I would be able to see it today. It has been preserved for 6,000 years, and is still as good as new. It is truly powerful. The surroundings became quiet, even the sound of a needle dropping on the floor could be heard. Sigh, everyone could not help but take in a breath of cold air. This treasure mountain was over 15 m tall, all sorts of light auras were flickering, causing everyone to be dazzled. Chapter 536. Holding on to the red lotus umbrella, the group of people did not slow down at all, bringing forth a gigantic fiery red afterimage, whistling as they rushed towards Tang Tian and the rest. Asshole! Damn it! 43 independent saints, in the eyes of the official bronze saints of the temple, were just a group of cannon fodder. Even Su Yi, who was always cautious, felt the same. The group of independent saints, compared to them, was like a group of beggars and an official army. Humph, as expected, armies are unreliable. One of the saints snorted. I wonder when Master Qinli will be able to break through to the Gold Saint realm. Master Qinli is hailed as the person with the most hope of breaking through to the Gold Saint realm. The triangular dart was engraved with many graceful arcs. These arcs were all different, intertwined and chased each other. Each arc seemed to have a natural meaning, and at the very front of these arcs, which was also the sharpest corner, a star seemed to be faintly discernible. That's mine. 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 He calmed down. The Aurora cover was a defensive spirit treasure with a spirit value of 160 points. It was his life-saving treasure. And the Aurora cover had a mystical ability. Once the opponent's spirit technique neared, it would be like a magnet, producing a strong repulsive force, and the person and the cover would be pushed away. Whoosh! The fiery rain struck his red lotus umbrella, and a smile surfaced on his face. The highest record among the bronze saints of the temple was a bronze saint, who had killed 16 bronze-ranked independent saints in one battle. Such a disparity was naturally not normal, but for a bronze saint of the temple to deal with 3 to 5 independent saints, that was extremely normal. In the temple, contribution points and spirit value were equal. 100 contribution points could be exchanged for 100 spirit value spirit treasures, spirit techniques, or other items. The other saints did not have the mood to discuss other matters. All of their faces were gloomy, and they increased their speed. Betrayal. He was determined to complete the mission beautifully. He wanted the entire heavens road to kneel and tremble in front of the temple. A group of independent saints dared to be enemies with the temple. A newly risen upstart dared to overestimate themselves and challenge the authority of the temple. It was a joke. Only fresh blood could wake them up and make them realize what a stupid mistake they had made. Countless tongues of flame surged out from his body and gathered in front of him in a spiral shape, turning into a red umbrella with a diameter of over 100 feet. He roared silently in his heart. When Little Fool saw the power of the distant triangular star dart, The corner of his eyes twitched. His heart felt like it had been ripped open and blood was flowing out. In his mind, he thought of a legendary treasure. The 2 fireballs hit the Aurora shield, but what he didn't expect was that the Aurora shield didn't break. The 2 transparent fireballs stuck to the Aurora shield and kept burning. The rain of fire was like falling on thin paper, instantly piercing through his red lotus umbrella. He, who was holding the red lotus umbrella and sprinting forward, did not expect this result. Before he could react, 2 balls of flames flew in front of him. Nonsense. Lord Londongi is the most promising. Lord Dongi's understanding of the laws has far surpassed the level of a silver saint. Su Yi's spirit value had already reached 446 points. His fighting standard was extremely high, and had repeatedly defeated saints with higher spirit value than him. Adding that he had a good temper, he had good relations with people, and was extremely famous among the bronze saints of Temple. Temple viewed the mission with great importance and sent Su Yi out. Distant triangular star dart is truly as sharp as the legends say. Let me do it, a member shouted excitedly. He suddenly increased his speed and rushed to the front of the group. Seems like the army was not suitable for the martial group. Without a military general grooming system, Su Yi was not surprised by the result. But, the earlier they tried, the earlier they failed, the better, to prevent some people from having unrealistic fantasies. 2 holes were burned in the Aurora shield, and they were growing bigger at an alarming rate. In the sky, a black dot whizzed past. Everyone immediately cheered. Little Fool's fists were clenched so tightly that they turned white. His chest was filled with an unresolvable killing intent. The current Little Fool was like an extremely dry barrel of gunpowder, and even a small spark could cause him to explode. The additional contribution points did not make them happy, and all of their faces were ugly. They all knew how serious the betrayal was. He was already prepared to be knocked out. Suddenly, his holy light plate trembled. All of those legendary spirit treasures, even Little Fool's eyes were red from seeing them, his heart twitching in pain. Every single one of them was a legend. His gaze exploded, he took a deep breath and bellowed, "Kill!" But, the strength of the gold-ranked armies were truly terrible. Furthermore, the one leading them was Su Yi. Old He's face did not relax at all, his face was gloomy. The Light Blade Army has collectively betrayed us. Commander Yisho Xian, Vice Commander Mo have already activated the Trial of Light. Your mission has changed. Other than the previous mission, you still need to destroy the entire Light Blade Army. Not a single one is left alive. Yisho Xian and Mo bring them back to the martial group, and imprison them in the Sin Pillar Court. Let them wail for days and nights, and warn the martial artists in the martial group that are degenerating by the day. Everyone who had been waiting for a long time moved out. Old He's face was filled with killing intent. Finish it quickly and return to Temple. Next week is Master Qin Li's training ground. If we miss it, it will be a pity. A saint shouted. A rain of fire shot out. All of the flames were only the size of a fist, and were translucent. The enemy's reaction was seen by Su Yi. They were all waiting for him. That's right, what gold-ranked army, what's the use? At the crucial moment they dropped the ball and still need us to clean up their mess. Another bronze saint said unhappily. Such a shameful word, to actually be related to the Honorable Martial Alliance, and furthermore, it was a gold-ranked army. It was a huge blow to the reputation of the Honorable Martial Alliance. The mission this time was probably the easiest 100 contribution points mission in history. Everyone's heart trembled and they all bowed in respect. 100 contribution points was definitely a generous reward. It was not easy to receive such a mission in Temple, and even if there was one, it would be extremely dangerous. More and more people joined in the discussion. They were obviously more interested in the question. A temple saint who grew like that, compared to the independent saints, was much stronger. According to what you said, that Master Dong Yi is already a gold-ranked saint. The contribution points for this mission will be increased by 50 points. The gigantic umbrella protected everyone behind it. It was the spirit technique that he trained in, a defensive spirit technique with a spirit value of over 120 points. It was definitely powerful. Facing the opponent's attack head-on was his specialty. Chi. That was his last thought, before the boundless darkness engulfed him. Sui bellowed. He stood still, with a thought. A light screen appeared in front of him, and a dignified old man appeared on the light screen. Sui shook his head and laughed, but did not stop him. He was carefully thinking about the mission. He did so purely out of habit, regardless of the battle. He would never underestimate his enemies. For the enemy to be able to alarm the temple, it was a reflection of their strength. Every month, there would be a silver-ranked saint who would give a sermon, explaining their understanding of laws, and by paying a certain amount of contribution points, they would be able to purchase an entrance ticket. And as long as one was slightly more diligent, and completed a few missions to earn contribution points, one could buy anything in the temple. If one had enough contribution points, they could even rent a star powerhouse, and derive spirit technique. That was close. The independent saints' training was extremely poor. They had no money to buy spirit technique cards, no money to buy spirit treasures, no money to buy spirit nourishing treasures. They were extremely poor. But immediately after, his smile froze on his face. Tang Tian did not notice Little Fool's change. His attention was completely focused on the incoming saints. His attention was extremely focused. He knew that in this battle, if they were to be careless, the entire army would be wiped out. Su Yi's eyes were filled with awe. Everyone's speed increased, like sharp swords, they pierced through the sky. In the middle of the group, there was a man who was in high spirits, his long hair fluttering in the wind. He laughed. Our contributions will definitely not be small. Before we set off, I specially asked around, if we complete the mission, we will receive 100 contribution points. After flying for half a day, a member suddenly shouted, "They are in front." Other than that, the free spirit technique cards provided by the temple could be summarized into a thick list. He stretched out his arms and suddenly clasped them together, and bellowed, "Red Lotus Umbrella!" Su Yi and the rest's faces changed. Betrayal was something that rarely happened within the Honorable Martial Alliance, and an army group betrayal was something that had never happened before. Everyone was roused. Su Yi squinted his eyes and bellowed, "Charge!" And for the saints of the temple, once they had the qualifications to become a bronze saint, the temple would give them a spirit treasure with a spirit value of 100 points. Just this point was enough to make the poor people's eyes turn green with envy. To the martial group, having the temple was enough. Old he added coldly, and then cut off the connection. "Don't bullshit, increase the speed." Su Yi's face was gloomy, without a hint of a smile, his entire body releasing a terrifying killing intent. Chi. Su Yi's eyes turned cold. So what if they were prepared? With the absolute difference in strength, the so-called willpower was just a beautiful joke. Autumn leaf spear, sky wheel, swan black mirror, distant triangle star dart. Old he. What a waste. To be able to enter Gui Wu's eyes, how could it be ordinary? Such a treasure was actually given to a group of cannon fodder that did not even have a spirit value of over 200 points. Furthermore, every single one of them had more than one. All of them were of different colors, dazzling to the eye, causing Little Fool's heart to burn even more, as though countless of monsters were roaring and wreaking havoc. Su Yi believed without a doubt. His face changed. In a moment of desperation, he activated his life-saving spirit treasure, Aurora Cover. A layer of dazzling aurora-like energy shield protected him so tightly that not even a drop of water could leak through. Stop! Spirit value was everything to a saint. As expected, it was as sharp as the legends. Captain Su, this time it is such a big battle. If we win, the credit should not be small, right? The one who spoke was a middle-aged man with white skin. He had a mischievous smile on his face. Not a single one of you will be able to escape. Tang Tian and the rest were already waiting for them. Little Fool's face was black. He floated behind Tang Tian. He was focused on searching for the ancient records. He never thought that the fool would actually give so many good things to the group of cannon fodder. Everyone's heart trembled and loudly replied, "Yes." His chest suddenly felt pain. His expression froze on his face. He lowered his head and looked at his chest. A triangular dart had pierced into his chest. The sharp energy suddenly rushed into his body. "This is—" Little Fool turned his head. His handsome and exquisite face, his killing intent was so dense that it was about to flow out. Chapter 537. The silver-lined heavy shield and the distant triangle meteor dart appearing at the same time. He felt that the possibility was. Stop joking. In the blink of an eye, the opponent's formation had transformed into a cone shape, and at the very front of the cone was the man holding the shield. Until today, they had thought of all sorts of possibilities, but none of them could be blocked by the opponent, so when they rushed to the front of the formation, they could not believe their eyes. The powerful shockwave swept out like a hurricane. The saints who were close by felt as though they were struggling in a torrential downpour, unable to stabilize themselves. All of them were overwhelmed with shock. Su Yi's assault was not just a single spirit technique. It was a fusion of glimmer-s power and flowing light-s speed, an original attack technique. The ear-deafening explosion directly exploded on the shield. Tang Tian's eardrums were buzzing. He was completely unable to hear his own roars. At the moment of life and death, he was like a wild beast on the verge of death, struggling frantically. The silver-lined heavy shield trembled intensely. Tang Tian held onto the back of the shield tightly, his face completely distorted. Tang Tian only felt an unstoppable force surging from the shield. The strong force almost caused him to let go. In that moment, his body instinctively reacted. He bent his waist like lightning, his shoulders pressing against the shield's body. Originally holding the shield with two hands, he hugged it with both arms. His entire person was like a raging bull, pressing against the shield's body. Brilliant scorching sun. The spear in that fellow's hand had a strange shape. It looked like pieces of withered leaves wrapping around the spear body, looking extremely ugly. From its appearance, it looked like the legendary autumn leaves spear. Su Yi's mind trembled. Su Yi's powerful strength was displayed without a doubt. Even with such high speed, he was still as agile as a fish, shuttling through the rain of fire. Although 5 of them were hit by the spirit-devouring flame, the remaining saints all rushed through the rain of fire. The spirit treasure in the enemy's hand was even weirder. It was a green whip. The tail of the whip was like a green hair. No matter how he remembered it being described before, it was similar to the legendary green pubescent hair. Su Yi's heart trembled once again. The way Su Yi looked at Tang Tian was like he was looking at a monster, even if the monster's actions were extremely laughable. As for the saints who had worked together with Su Yi before, their chests were even more agitated. Every time Su Yi's ferocious attack appeared on the battlefield, it would definitely be destroyed. Damn it! Su Yi sneered. Suddenly, his gaze congealed. A man holding a shield pierced through the entire line of defense, going against the retreating tide, rushing into the formation, and at the same time, the 2 wings quickly retracted, moving closer to the center. Silver-lined heavy shield. Even Meng Ta and the rest who were behind Tang Tian were shocked by Su Yi's attack, and all of their faces changed. They had never seen such a domineering and sharp slash. They even felt that this slash was enough to split their team in 2. Glimmer itself did not have any attack power, but to be able to be ranked as one of the strongest bronze spirit techniques in the Honorable Martial Alliance was because it could ignite true power. The true power that was combusted would multiply in power, and even the simplest attack would be filled with astonishing power. Su Yi and the rest were burning with anger. They had always been the ones ambushing others. When had they ever suffered such a huge loss? Su Yi's face was filled with killing intent. He hissed. his body slightly increasing in size, releasing a dazzling light aura, as though he was a god of war. His speed suddenly increased, tearing through the sky, like an astonishing light sword. He brazenly slashed towards the enemy formation. The enemies in front of him retreated like a tide. They were blocked. Su-yi subconsciously swept his gaze across. Tang Tian was also shocked by Su-yi's attack, such a fast speed. How did they have such a treasure? The legendary silver-lined heavy shield. On the contrary, Meng Ta and the rest who were initially stunned by Su-yi's overlord blade, personally witnessing Tang Tian blocking such a terrifying and peerless attack, they were in disbelief, their blood was boiling, and they entered an unprecedented fanaticism. The scorching sun broke through the sky, the dazzling light quickly swept past. In the midst of the dazzling light, Su-yi raised his palm up high, like an overlord raising his blade. A few of the saints who were preparing to use their energy barriers to block the attack shuddered, and immediately twisted their bodies. Su-yi suddenly thought about the flash of the triangular dart that shot out like a shooting star. Another legendary name flashed into his mind like lightning, causing his mind to tremble once again. The enemies at the side seemed to have something revolving around them. Su-yi's eyes were extremely sharp, and immediately noticed that it was a blue transparent flywheel, so it was difficult to detect. For some reason, Su-yi thought about another famous treasure, Sky Wheel, and his mind trembled again. Distant triangle star dart. The temple saints' fighting intent was completely stirred up by Su-yi's tyrannical and unreasonable attack. They had long heard of Su-yi's name, but it was the first time for many of them to work together with Su-yi, and personally witnessing it, all of them felt their blood vessels surging. The low morale from the sudden attack of the rain of fire immediately shot up. They were equally shocked, but the morale of both parties had undergone a complete change. Especially when Su-yi and the rest were still increasing their speed. The battle record also proved the Silver Senior's evaluation. Ever since Overlord's execution was created, it had never been blocked by anyone before. He had just rushed to the front of the formation, when the opponent had already rushed in front of him. The speed was so fast that he was unable to see it clearly. He only felt a burst of tyrannical aura crashing down. The glaring ball of light suddenly exploded. The fastest to react was Su-yi. He had already noticed the scene of the spirit-devouring flame burning the energy barrier. His face changed, and he shouted, "Dodge the flames!" Everything happened too quickly, to the point that he did not even have time to think. The thin silver shield, in front of the tyrannical light aura, looked extremely weak, so weak that no one doubted, as long as the light pillar touched the silver shield would be destroyed like a piece of paper. The saints of the temple were all prepared to take the chance to kill. They were certain that Su-yi's attack would definitely be like a hot knife through butter, and would scatter the enemy formation. Bang! But the position of the spirit-devouring flame was meticulously arranged, for the sake of giving the enemy a show of strength. Tang Tian made everyone's spirit-devouring flame line up very closely, and did not give them much space to dodge. And flowing light was Su-yi's main flying spirit technique. It was as fast as flowing light, with unparalleled agility. Su-yi realized in his training there were many techniques in flowing light that were extremely beneficial to the convergence of power. Using the power contained in the high-speed attack, and fusing with glimmer, it allowed the blade aura to have a qualitative flying path. The cone formation was usually used for charging, and the martial artist at the tip of the cone formation was definitely the strongest person in the entire formation, and only with the sharpest spear tip, the cone formation would be able to pierce through the enemy's defense. How is that possible? Tang Tian did not even have time to think, and instinctively grabbed onto the silver-lined heavy shield. Su-yi's true power surged, the light aura became even more dazzling. He also trained in glimmer, but his realm was much higher than Yi Zhao Go. All of the light aura congealed on his body. The glimmer was like needles, dazzling to the eyes. His entire body was enveloped by the light aura and could not be seen. He was like a dazzling sun. The tyrannical glimmer in Su Yi's hands was actually releasing an indescribable tyrannical and ferocious aura. Tang Tian's entire body tensed up, his eyes were red, and he roared like a wild beast. He. The light aura dissipated. Su Yi could not believe his own eyes. No one was clearer than him on the destructive power of the Overlord's punishment. If it was measured by spirit value, the spirit value of the Overlord's punishment was definitely over 400 points. Even the Silver Seniors were full of praises for his technique, and said that it was a technique that no one below the silver level could block. His gaze subconsciously swept past the other enemies. Overlord's punishment. Su Yi waved his palm, the light aura brought about a scalp-numbing low rumble, heavily striking onto the silver shield. This was an attack that belonged solely to him, and this technique had an extremely tyrannical name. The red lotus umbrella was easily pierced through, causing the temple saints to be caught off guard, and immediately, 3 of them were struck by the spirit-devouring flame. At the start, they did not think much of it. The spirit-devouring flame's deceptive appearance caused them to underestimate its destructive power. The infamous distant triangle star dart. Little Fool's heart trembled, but from the corner of his eyes, he saw the fear on Meng Ta and the rest's faces. The disdain in his heart turned into rage. These legendary treasures, to hand them over to trash, it was a humiliation to the legends, it was a disrespect to the ancestors, it was mine. Mine. Tang Tian was stunned, his mind was blank, his entire body was congested with blood, his body was as red as a cooked prawn, as though he was drunk, hugging the silver-lined heavy shield. He spun around in a daze. Their blood was boiling as they followed the sharp slash aura to the front of the formation, but they were shocked to realize that the opponent had blocked it. But the opponent was defending. He remembered that the distant triangle star dart was shot out from an ordinary-looking enemy's hand. Impossible. He immediately denied his guess. If it was only the silver-lined heavy shield, he would still think that it was possible. The silver-lined heavy shield that was known to be indestructible by spirit techniques below the gold rank. Thinking of retreating at this time? Too naive. Furthermore, Su Yi could even see that the 2 wings that were tightened were like 2 blades. Upon blocking their attack, they would shoot out. His mind was no longer shaken, he was dumbstruck. Su Yi stared blankly at the silver shield in Tang Tian's hand, the extremely fine patterns on it, and the silver light that was flickering on the shield body was extremely thin. A legendary name appeared in his mind. His pupils suddenly constricted, his heart jumping crazily. But you want to block my attack? I don't know where you guys get your confidence from. They rushed into the rain of fire, their speed was already raised to the limit, and it was difficult for them to dodge. Chi, another 2 people were struck by the spirit-devouring flame. Su Yi immediately understood the opponent's thoughts. To place the strongest defense at the tip of the awl, like that, they could naturally form a fan-shaped defensive zone, protecting everyone. This was an extremely good idea, in theory, as long as the person at the front had sufficient defense. He could completely rely on his own strength to protect everyone. Everyone looked at Tang Tian in disbelief, who was hugging the silver shield, as though he was drunk, slowly spinning around in his original position. Chapter 538. If the fool died, he would not be able to live either. If it was another person, he would definitely be frightened by the formation. Such a naive fellow, it would be a pity if he died. Are they still independent saints? Are they still the cowardly and undisciplined independent saints? Fist Saint's face changed. His true power surged, wanting to expel the flames, but no matter how much he urged his true power, the flames continued to burn downwards. Spirit-devouring flame. He was just a small figure, so small that he could not be any smaller, and was not worth buying. In this world, there was actually a group of people who were so passionate about imitating treasures. Xiao. If it was said that Tang Tian blocking his overlord's execution surprised him, Then the bitter battle in front of him was even more out of his expectations. The opponent's true power was barging around in his body, destroying his life force. The situation was dire. Little Fool's eyes suddenly lit up with a demonic light aura, both of his palms pressed down in the air. The dazzling light beam transformed into a gigantic chessboard. You finally moved. They are the spirit-devouring blood group. His mouth twitched with difficulty. For some reason, he thought about how Tang Tian had taken out a mountain of treasures, and said, "I should have brought more." He thought about how Tang Tian had stuffed the swan black mirror into his hands, and how he was so excited that he was trembling. "You think I will sell my life for you just like that?" So naive. Even though they were already flying out, the independent saints still disregarded everything and threw out all the spirit treasures in their hands, their final spirit technique. Such determination to fight made Sui almost think that he had met with the guards of some constellation. He took a deep breath. His experienced face was extremely focused. His eyes became extremely determined. The true power in his body was completely sucked out and poured into his spirit domain. "Protect, Master." It drew a perfect arc and quietly flew to Fist Saint's back. Sui shuddered. He looked at Tang Tian and the rest. His gaze instantly became bone-chilling. Little Fool scolded in his heart. He knew that Tang Tian was in a bad situation. At this time, he only needed the weakest spirit technique, and it would be enough to kill the fool. Tang Tian's entire body was congested with blood. His skin was as red as a cooked prawn. He had not recovered from the attack. Soul-devouring blood group. Zheng Yu was one of them. He was passionate about treasure hunting and was an expert in I-type spirit technique. He was good at escaping, but his fighting strength was extremely low. In the confrontation between the two sides, he was the first to be injured. He was fighting a Fist Saint, and the opponent's moves contained immense power. His spirit technique was like a mantis trying to stop a car, and was instantly shattered. "Die, all of you!" He mocked himself in his heart. He was passionate about treasure hunting. How could he not know the value of the swan mirror? He was used to roaming the Jianghu. He was used to seeing people deceiving each other. He had long since become sophisticated and slippery, but at that moment, he was somewhat shaken. At this time, the saints who were affected by the spirit-devouring flame also realized that the situation was not good. The flame was actually devouring their spirit domains. The soul-devouring blood group had actually risen from the ashes. What a good-for-nothing! According to the original plan, Urwo should have retreated at this time, and the others should have attacked from both sides. However, Urwo didn't move at all, which immediately became their biggest flaw. Tang Tian, who had lost his ability to fight, was undoubtedly the best target. To the experienced saints of the temple, if they could not even see this, they would be derelict in their duties. The light beam chessboard quickly lit up one after another with black chess pieces. Little Fool's 10 fingers moved continuously. In the sky behind the opponent, a spirit-devouring flame quietly floated in the air, like a cherry blossom being blown by the wind. It floated up silently. His left shoulder suddenly felt a slight pain. He turned his head, and a fist-sized flame laid on his shoulder, and then quickly seeped into his body. Sui, who was watching from afar, congealed. They truly know how to buy people's hearts. The saints of the temple were all extremely experienced. Upon seeing Tang Tian's blank expression, they immediately saw Tang Tian as the breakthrough point. Suyi's battle tactics were simple and clean. Before his attack was successful, he would borrow the force and pull apart the distance like lightning, not even giving the opponent a chance to sneak attack. Hearing those words, Suyi's face changed. "All right, this treasure is enough to buy my cheap life." Tang Tian's form spirit was powerless to stop them, and both parties directly clashed. Since the battle had reached this stage, Sui thought that they had already won. A group of independent saints with an average spirit value of less than 100 points, in such a close combat, To meet a temple bronze saint with the lowest spirit value of 300 points, Su-yi could not think of any way for the opponent to turn the tables. The black sword aura flowed and coiled around the void dark flames, like raindrops. It sealed the space in front of Tang Tian. Fist Saint seemed to have sensed something. He suddenly turned and waved his fist. Bang! The surging true power surged out. His face changed. He did not hit anything. In such a fierce and direct collision, they were all injured the moment they met. To the temple, the spirit-devouring blood group was definitely a taboo. Su-yi knew that in the past, the temple had paid a huge price for this name. His body was trembling uncontrollably. It was a sign of exhaustion. His expression was blank as he floated in his original position. The remaining true power in his body was doing its best to defend against the destruction of the enemy's true power, protecting his life. At that time, he was still muttering in his heart, but his hands were tightly holding onto the swan black mirror. It was the best spirit treasure he had ever touched. It was a treasure that he had never dared to think about in his entire life. At that moment, he felt that even if he died, it would be worth it. I'm going to lose money. Half of these bronze saints had defensive spirit techniques that had a spirit value of over 100 points. They took the initiative to rush forward. The sword auras that fused with the void dark flames struck their energy barriers, only causing ripples. Su-yi could not believe his own eyes. Little Fool's face turned cold, his expression becoming extremely solemn. His hands and fingers slowly moving. One after another, all the treasures that had appeared in history caused Su-yi to be dumbstruck, but at the same time, it calmed his heart down. If there were only one or two, he would still think that it was the opponent's luck. But when all the treasures appeared, he actually did not know whether to laugh or cry. In truth, it was not that he had never met such people before. In the past, there was a spirit treasure master who was extremely passionate about imitating famous treasures. From what he knew, there were even a few experts who could imitate the treasures to be 70 to 80% similar. There was once an auction, and there was a mistake. The treasure that was bought at a high price was actually a fake, and even the experienced appraisers of the auction house did not discover it. The few people who had just rushed out were like beasts crashing into their heads, and immediately flew back. They did not even have the time to release their spirit techniques. The disparity between the two parties was too big. He even had the leisure to think. Bang bang bang! Su-yi's eyes revealed a look of admiration. He activated Glimmer again. The true power in his body combusted frantically, and his figure suddenly disappeared in the air. It was said that Tang Tian trained in the form spirit, but who knew that his fleshly body would be so strong, to actually be able to block the overlord beheading? It was truly inconceivable. Su-yi's eyes lit up. Although the power of the spirit technique used by Tang Tian's form spirit was small, but it was extremely ingenious and had huge potential. An extremely outstanding spirit technique. As for the other saints, their reactions were much slower. They flocked forward. Even the saints who were touched by the spirit-devouring flame did not sense the power of the spirit-devouring flame, and rushed forward ferociously. His face finally completely changed. The opponent had brazenly rushed out from the rain of swords. At that time, he was thinking, such a good treasure, to actually give it away like that, why is he so stupid? But to the bronze saints of the temple, the current, graceful sword was still lacking in killing power. I hate fighting the most. So painful. Little Fool, who was hiding behind Tang Tian, his eyes lit up with a dense light aura at the same time. He remembered that he was laughing at those people who were crying, and at most his nose would be a little sore. The world in his eyes was already cold and cruel. He had seen too many people, for the sake of an ordinary spirit treasure, a spirit technique card, underhanded means, cheating, extorting, they were all unscrupulous. Almost at the same time, he appeared in front of Tang Tian. His raised palm was wrapped with extremely dense light thorns, like a death-light blade. Zheng Yu mocked himself in his heart. In his black vision, the enemy's weakness was clear and unmistakable. He turned his face sinisterly. The frail figure flying in the distance had already fainted. His sharp and skinny face had an indescribable satisfaction. He lost control of his body and fell down. Damn it! Oh my God, it's the spirit-devouring flame! Save me! Quickly save me! But the following scene caused Su-yi to be shocked. At that time, no one was thinking about any tactics, no one was thinking about the future, everyone only had one thought in their minds. Among them, many of them only had a spirit value of 40 or 50 points, which was at least 300 points lower than the bronze saints of the temple. The disparity between the two parties was an insurmountable gap. At the same time, Meng Ta and the rest awoke from their stupor. Whoosh, they rushed out from both sides like a tide, blocking in front of Tang Tian. They did not engage in guerrilla warfare, but like a fence, they protected Tang Tian in the middle. He had heard of some rumors about Tang Tian, and even knew that Tang Tian had caused a lot of trouble for the Honorable Martial Alliance, but to Su-yi it was not a big deal. The saints of the temple did not care about worldly affairs. The worldly affairs were all handled by the Honorable Martial Alliance. If there were no troubles, why would they raise so many trash? Little Fool's face changed. The fool was beaten senseless, and stood there motionless. Time seemed to have slowed down at that moment. As he expected, the moment they clashed, the opponents were thrown off their feet, and a few of them were instantly sent flying. His mind was blank. The power of the Overlord's execution was too great, and it was not something he could withstand at his current stage. Although he blocked it, but the opponent's power had already seeped into his body. Borrowing the recoil, Su-yi once again pulled away. His gaze landed on the young man holding the shield. This young man should be Tang Tian, Su-yi thought. In truth, up until now, the one who surprised him the most was Tang Tian. He truly knows how to buy people's hearts. The swan-black spectacles that he was wearing suddenly lit up with a black light aura. The chaotic battlefield suddenly became simple and clear. The opponent's flaws were all revealed to him. Panic screams rang out from the mouths of the iron-blooded saints, their faces filled with despair and fear. The unremarkable flames had seeped into their bodies, and were frantically devouring their spirit domains. He flew out, seeing the opponent getting further and further away, but the contempt and disdain on the opponent's face was extremely clear in his eyes. Chapter 539. A crazy, reckless roar resonated in the young man's heart. Su-yi's face flashed a look of disdain. A final struggle. He had already seen the power of graceful sword. The spirit value was definitely not over 100 points. Such a thing, how could it block his attack? I did not forget. I will never retreat. Never cowardly. Never depressed. Go and die. He raised his finger, and tapped on Tang Tian's forehead. Did you forget? Retreating? Cowardly? Was he depressed? Are you going to surrender? As though deep in the earth's core, there was a terrifying energy brewing. You said it before, you are a godlike young man. So happy under the starry sky, the young man's face was covered in tears, muttering to himself. Yaya scratched his head, with a face of distress. He taught him spiraling energy. Su-yi's sinister smile was so clear. He raised his left palm, a light aura flickering. Am I going to die here? Little Fool thought helplessly. The current him was already close to the edge of annihilation. The martial spirit little person was confused. He gradually had an idea. He formed a halo around him, continuously spinning. This way he could follow it. Suddenly, a light net like a chessboard suddenly appeared in front of Tang Tian. Heh, you also have the determination to die? You said before you want to fight alongside them. I still haven't reunited with Qian Hui, I still haven't realized my dream, I still haven't fulfilled my promise, I still have many mysteries that I haven't uncovered, I still have too many doubts in my heart, I still have an incomparable curiosity towards this world, and I still have an undying passion. I don't want to die here, absolute. No. Throw. Down. The two of them looked at each other in a daze. The light aura of the swallowing light steel fist, in front of the spirit value over 200 points of glimmer slash, was as weak as paper, not even able to block for a second before being annihilated. All of the blade aura entered Yaya's body. The incessant explosions sounded. Tang Tian's body was like boiling water, constantly swelling up and disappearing. It was just a Bud Spirit General, it did not have any value, what use was it? He was such a noble spirit, to have to deal with a Bud Spirit General every day, how annoying. Friendship with a Bud Spirit General, how laughable. His handsome face was ferocious and crazed. He raised his left palm. Sui appeared over 30 m away. His right arm was gone. His right shoulder had a terrifying wound, blood flowed out continuously. His clothes were soaked in blood. Even if it meant death. Have you forgotten? Did he flinch? Was he a coward? Was he depressed? Were they going to surrender? No. Boom. Sui slashed down heavily, the blade aura whistling towards Little Fool who had lost control. He was so happy. But why was she so sad? Suddenly, the scene of Yaya's little face filled with fear appeared in his mind, but it still raised its little fist and rushed towards the glimmering sword gleam. It must have been very scared. Suyi's face was as white as paper, a stern look flashed past his eyes. He suddenly raised his left palm and chopped down towards his right shoulder. He used all the strength he could muster to speak to himself, one word at a time. Soul-devouring flame. Countless scenes flashed past, countless faces flashed past, and countless oaths surged in his heart. Yaya's chubby little face was filled with fear, but its little fist suddenly absorbed all the light auras around it. Swallowing light steel fist. Every muscle in Tang Tian's body was trembling, his body was boiling hot, his blood was burning, his ears were ringing, it was filled with his crazed and hysterical roars. He always felt annoyed in his heart, he felt helpless, he ate the star rocks just to prevent Yaya from bothering him. Chia, don't worry. I will definitely find you. Why was he so sad? A heart-wrenching scream resonated throughout the entire battlefield. Su Yi's figure flashed and disappeared from the light net. His right arm stopped at its original position. After a moment, a flame suddenly emerged from the broken arm, and in a blink of an eye, it enveloped the entire broken arm, and after a few seconds, the broken arm turned into ashes. In the boiling hot world, Tang Tian's self-questioning reverberated endlessly. Sui, who had suddenly appeared in front of Tang Tian, slashed down with his palm. His left palm slashed down frantically, countless blade auras whistled towards Little Fool. Suyi's face was pale white. He stared at Little Fool like a wild beast. It was not easy to get here, how can I give up? It was not easy to get here. It was not easy. Yaya will play with me. Little Fool stared blankly at Yaya's previous position. It was as though his soul had been sucked out, countless blurry images appeared in front of his eyes. The light aura entered between Tang Tian's eyebrows, and Tang Tian's body suddenly calmed down. The martial spirit little man was affected. He started to circle around Yaya, flying faster and faster. A figure suddenly appeared in front of the blade aura. Little Fool was startled. It was Yaya. A dazzling light aura blossomed from Little Fool's fingertip, entering between Tang Tian's eyebrows. Little Fool's body became even dimmer. He entered Tang Tian's body and disappeared. That was Little Fool's true killing technique. From the start of the battle until now, Little Fool had been preparing his killing technique. His spirit-devouring flame was the strongest attack out of everyone, and the only killing technique that could threaten Sui, so no matter how intense the battle between Meng Ta and the rest was, he restrained himself from using this technique. I will help you this once, for Yaya. No, it was trembling. Mumu's martial spirit little man, for the first time, had a ripple in his heart. He took the star rock and started eating it. Then he took out a spirit card and passed it to Yaya. Yaya beamed and ate it. The battle outside had reached its climax. There are so many resolute people waiting for me even in death. There are so many people who disregarded their lives and fought alongside me. There are so many people who looked up to me and entrusted their lives and futures to me. The sunshine never left me. Hope never left me. I have encountered so many beautiful things. They have accompanied me to this point. Looking at the cold and withered crooked figure, the young man clenched his fists tightly. Sui did not have any intention of changing his technique. His slash landed firmly on the light net. Little Fool groaned, as though he was struck by a heavy blow. He flew out. Under the powerful force, Yaya's umbrella immediately crumbled, and Little Fool flew out fiercely. Mummy, Little Tian has become very powerful, did you see that? Die. The martial spirit little man understood something. I don't want to die here. Inside his body, something seemed to explode. The wooden martial spirit little man floated in the air. Squeaking sounds came out from behind Tang Tian. A lively bud spirit general jumped out. Seeing him, he was stunned. Is this happiness? Until he took over the little man's body, and everything changed. Sui revealed his teeth and laughed. Good. Very good. A form spirit actually destroyed one of my arms. The blood flowing in his veins was like lava flowing out of a volcano. It frantically seeped into his bones, his muscles, his skin. The power that caused people to tremble stimulated every single one of his nerves, causing his body to tremble uncontrollably. Yaya's chubby face was distorted, his wide eyes filled with fear. The dazzling needle-like light aura, penetrated through his skin, was extremely bewitching and terrifying. The spirit-devouring flame, that had a spirit value of 260 points, immediately coiled around Su Yi's right arm. Even the glimmer was unable to stop the spirit-devouring flame. Am I going to lose? Am I going to die? Am I going to die here? Yaya became even more happy and excited, beating the drum even more merrily. Little Fool's figure flashed, a blade aura brushed past his body. The other blade aura had already flown in front of him. Little Fool clenched his teeth, and used the umbrella to block in front of him. No. The oppressive sound of thunder exploded out. Yaya disappeared from Little Fool's vision. The terrifying power caused it to not even leave an afterimage. Like a cannonball, it fiercely smashed into the ground, leaving behind a bottomless hole. The transparent flame, wrapped around Su Yi's right arm, but strangely like mercury, it seeped into Su Yi's right arm. Senior Ghost Claw, I will definitely bring glory to your legacy. The two of them sat side by side on the mountain peak. The little boy looked at the little girl and said loudly, his vow carried with the wind, and traveled very far. Yaya's eyes shone with light. He took out a star rock from his body, and brought it to Moo Moo's martial spirit little person. The spirit-devouring flame that swallowed his right arm quietly floated in the air. Since it's like that, then. Little Fool turned his face and looked at Sui indifferently. His body suddenly disappeared from the air. As Sui expected, the chessboard light net crumbled, but what he did not expect was that countless of translucent flames gushed out from the crumbling light net and rolled back towards him. Sui, who was caught off guard, was immediately hit. Dong. You were the one who said all of that. Pa pa pa. Little Fool's body was slightly translucent. His delicate face was pale white. He stared at Sui coldly. Whoosh, an umbrella appeared in his hands. The energy in his body was already unable to activate the spirit-devouring flame. Continuous explosions could be heard from his body, as if beans were being fried. His body was trembling violently. Every explosion, a small bump would appear on Tang Tian's body, as though something was exploding inside his body. No. Yaya would run over daily to fawn on him, babbling to the point that he was annoyed, and every time he would take out the star rock and place it in front of him, babbling and gesturing. Only when he ate the star rock would Yaya be happy. No. Little Fool screamed his lungs out. Pa. Ah. You said before you want to give them a big constellation. Graceful sword. He was waiting for Sui. The lock has already loosened? This is truly shocking. I have suffered so much, I have been ridiculed, I have shed countless of sweat, I have passed through the smoke, stepped on the dirt, covered with cuts and bruises, to reach here. Tang Tian, you said it before. The incessant sonic booms disappeared. Suddenly, he felt something, he turned his head, and looked at Tang Tian with an explosive gaze. Little Fool appeared in front of Tang Tian. He looked at Tang Tian with a complicated expression, and muttered softly, "You are actually able to reach this step, it is truly surprising, your dedication to victory, has it reached such a stage? Even in such a hopeless situation, you are still not willing to give up? How can I die here? How can I? You said before, you want to find Xie." Tang Tian's ears were buzzing, he could not hear anything, everything in front of him was white, he could not see anything, his entire body was burning hot, blood had seeped into his muscles, it was as though his entire body was filled with flames, he did not have any other senses, he could not even move a finger. Little Fool looked at Sui expressionlessly, he wanted to kill him. Yaya excitedly started to beat the drum. Yeah. Hey, you are also not satisfied? Chapter 540. Putting down the silver-lined heavy shield, Tang Tian's face appeared in Suyi's vision. He could not help but be startled, that pair of eyes. Bang! Suyi's face changed, without thinking, he raised his energy barrier. There must be a demon in this abnormal situation. But it actually appeared on the same person. A fist wrapped in flames, smashed onto his energy barrier. Have you forgotten? Are you retreating? Are you afraid? Are you depressed? Are you going to surrender? Both sides of the intense battle stopped at the same time, everyone's faces were filled with bewilderment. It was too quiet. This kind of unusual silence appeared in the midst of the intense battlefield. It was indescribably strange. The battlefield should be filled with chaotic energy flows, the airflow wreaking havoc, but suddenly it was so quiet, so peaceful, it caused one's hair to stand. SSSSSSSSS. The surging blade aura was like a raging wave crashing into a reef, exploding into pieces, the broken aura splattering everywhere. These three words struck into Tang Tian's mind like lightning, as though he was born with these three words. Tang Tian's vision was filled with white, as though he was in the eye of the storm, his ears were filled with roars and howls. Suddenly, Tang Tian noticed, the devil flame was actually sucked into the blood furnace, the blood light aura of the blood furnace became even more intense and dense. He suddenly realized, unknowingly, Little Fool was curled up inside the crystal clear blue energy furnace. He was in deep sleep. Little Fool's pale face caused Tang Tian to immediately wake up from his daze. The battle just now surfaced in his mind. Suddenly, Sui thought about the information regarding Tang Tian. Until now, Tang Tian's background was still a mystery. Tang Tian's background could only be traced back to Star Wind City. Tang Tian's mother had already passed away. His background was unknown, and no one knew who his father was. And the talent that Tang Tian displayed in Andrew Academy was not anything special. Compared to that, Amauri and the rest who were left far behind by Tang Tian, their talent far surpassed his. Gemini Furnace. Su Yi's pupils constricted, his heart trembled, his eyes were actually gold. Suddenly, his vision darkened. A silver shield occupied his entire field of vision. The intricate patterns on the surface of the shield were extremely clear to him. Again and again, Su Yi's pupils dilated. He could not believe his own eyes. Impossible. I want to fight. I want to win. It was as if there was a ball of fire burning in his heart. As if sensing this flame, the blood light from the blood cauldron became even more intense. The fresh blood that flowed out from the blood furnace was like boiling lava, causing his entire body to tremble uncontrollably. He gritted his teeth, and his figure suddenly disappeared. Sui felt that the chi in the center of the storm was becoming more and more terrifying, as though a monster was being born. He felt an intense sense of danger, and knew that he could not delay any longer. The shield fiercely slammed into his face. The huge force caused his vision to go black, and he lost consciousness on the spot. His body, which had lost control of itself, smashed heavily into the ground like a meteorite. It was as if a terrifying monster had suddenly appeared on the battlefield, causing all the beasts to fall silent in fear of its might. Tang Tian had no time to check, his mind was filled with the battle. Bang! A cloud of dust rose up from the ground. Su Yi's surroundings were filled with spiderweb cracks. So that asshole is from Gemini constellation. Little fool. William. This is Red Devil William's devil fire. They seeped out from every muscle in his body, every drop of blood, every piece of bone, following his limbs, converging towards his heart. Su Yi's movement was extremely sudden, and the saints around him were completely unable to react. Not good. Bang. Su Yi had seen many enemies of the temple, but none of them caused him to feel such deep fear like Tang Tian. This fellow will definitely become the honorable martial alliance, and the temple's mortal enemy. This thought that came out of nowhere lit up his mind like a lightning bolt. Bang! A muffled sound came out, Su Yi's body trembled, the shattered auras fell like rain, as though they were blown by the wind, like a dream, reflecting the shock on his face. Everyone, the energy drifting in the air suddenly calmed down. The turbulent energy flow from the battle had disappeared without a trace, and the entire place became quiet. Tang Tian's heart was half corroded by the azure energy, while the other half was corroded by the scarlet-red energy. Gradually, Tang Tian's heart became half blue and half red. The blue half became even more sparkling and translucent, while the red half became even more red like blood. This fellow, what exactly is his background? My lover, my companion, my world. Such an ordinary young man, was currently a tyrant, in charge of Ursa Major constellation. Even the Honorable Martial Alliance feared him. Such an astonishing speed of growth, even Su Yi, who had been viewed as a genius since young, had to admit that he was inferior. Su Yi felt that he was going crazy. The spirit-devouring blood group's spirit-devouring flame, William's devil fire, every single power that Tang Tian was using, caused him to be filled with fear. Any name was a taboo in the temple. This fellow. Su Yi could not see the opponent's figure clearly, but he could sense an extremely dangerous aura forming in the center of the storm. The golden eyes had become scarlet-red like fire. Victory! I want victory! This judgment caused his heart to immediately become blazing hot. The originally quiet energy suddenly became extremely lively. So fast. Countless azure threads and countless scarlet threads quickly converged towards Tang Tian's heart. The blood meridian's seal lock has been opened. Yaya! Amidst the exclamations, the light blade easily broke through the storm and fiercely slashed towards Tang Tian. Tang Tian looked at Su Yi. He saw the bewilderment in Su Yi's eyes and smiled at Su Yi. Su Yi's heart palpitated. He suddenly realized it was an extremely good opportunity. Previously, he had always treated the mission as an ordinary mission, but at that moment, he suddenly realized maybe he could reap some rewards from the mission. No. He was still in the middle of a battle. Gemini constellation was not a problem to think about now. His body was undergoing an astonishing change. The blood-red color in Tang Tian's eyes became denser. It was a patch of scarlet red. He held onto the silver-lined heavy shield, his body slightly lowered, like a bloodthirsty wild beast. How is that possible? That flame is the devil flame. His power was continuously increasing. The devil flame actually permeated into every strand of blood and flesh in his body. My willpower, my ambition, my oath. Su Yi became even more hesitant. To be able to stir up such a large area of energy, no matter how he looked at it, it was not normal. But, for the free energy in the air to be used by a saint in battle, it was not a simple matter. It was definitely not something a bronze saint could achieve. Su Yi felt that his own thoughts were a joke. Energy was not a wild beast, it did not have life. How is that possible? The attentive Su-yi quickly noticed a detail. Tang Tian's golden pupils did not seem to have any focus. All of them are reasons for me to fight, all of them are reasons for me not to give up. I am that greedy, I am that hopeless. Wait a minute. Gemini furnace. Gemini constellation. Tang Tian subconsciously clenched his fist. The Gemini furnace that was forming in his body, the azure blue energy furnace, was extremely quiet, while the red half, that was the blood furnace, was extremely active. All the blood in his body was pouring into the blood furnace, and was continuously being strengthened inside the blood furnace, and then dispersed into his body. This fellow's body definitely has a secret. His eyes stared intently at Tang Tian. He had seen Tang Tian's strange actions and the form spirit's movements, although he did not believe that Tang Tian could play any tricks, but the sudden change made him even more cautious. Tang Tian could differentiate the difference. The energy that was gushing into his body was a thin azure blue flow, but the energy that was gushing out from his flesh and blood was scarlet red like blood. The entire sky had darkened, and unknowingly dark clouds covered the sky. The endless dark clouds were as black as ink and hung low like lead. Tang Tian slowly opened his eyes. Tang Tian, who was in the storm, had a calm expression. His zero-energy body was unable to block the energy that was gushing in. The energy that was gushing in frantically followed his body and converged towards his heart. Unless Tang Tian's body was still hiding something? Su-yi immediately became alert, but suddenly, in his vision, he lost sight of Tang Tian. Tang Tian was startled. He had all sorts of guesses about the blood meridians in his body, but he had never linked his blood meridians with Gemini constellation. To him, it was an extremely foreign constellation. Tang Tian had already completely thrown all the questions to the back of his mind. His eyes were red, like an enraged bull. He frantically pounced on every enemy he could see. The energy that filled the sky transformed into thin streams and pounced towards Tang Tian. The air was filled with thin streams of energy, like the ripples created by the tip of a sword cutting across the water surface. Tang Tian could clearly feel that the power of his body was increasing bit by bit, and he could feel the extent of the increase. The position where Tang Tian stood was like the center of the storm. The energy that filled the sky frantically surged into his body. At the same time, he appeared at the edge of the storm. The light aura around his body was as dazzling as the sun. He raised his left palm and fiercely chopped down. Although Little Fool was already asleep in the energy furnace and could not use blink, but Tang Tian's current speed was actually not much slower than blink. The whistling stopped, the roars subsided, the white field of vision slowly returned to normal. He saw Su-yi, who was not far away, with a broken arm. The blood meridians that had been unlocked in his body were like the deep sea, or like the endless void. The power was flowing silently. Every ripple caused his heart to palpitate. Tang Tian softly said to himself. His mind was moved. Could it be the Overlord execution previously? Tang Tian had to use all of his strength to barely block it. But Tang Tian was actually holding onto the shield with one hand. His body only swayed slightly, and did not retreat a single step. The silver-lined heavy shield did not move an inch. Tang Tian's background was truly not simple. Tang Tian did not sense anything, seeing the surging blade aura, as though it was about to touch Tang Tian's forehead. Suddenly, a silver shield appeared in front of the blade aura. Su-yi tried his best to recall the description of the golden eyes. He had a vague impression of it, as though he had seen it somewhere before, but he could not recall it. But, although he could not recall the origin of the golden eyes, but he could still make a rough judgment. Everyone present were saints, and they were extremely sensitive to the changes in energy, to the changes in chi dynamic. The sudden silence of the world caused the experienced saints to be bewildered. Chapter 541. Thinking of Zheng Yu and the others who were injured, he quickly said, "Let's go down and take a look." Temple's 15 saints were completely wiped out. the 4 gold-rank armies of the Honorable Martial Alliance, 2 were wiped out, 1 was defeated, and 1 was heavily injured. But, now that the Ursa Major constellation had opened up the Treasure City, they had already officially stepped into the ranks of the top aristocratic families. Exclamations of shock could be heard, one after another. Meng Ta and the rest were saints after all, and were more knowledgeable than ordinary martial artists. Among them, there were many who had been to the 12 ecliptic palaces and seen those treasure cities. That also meant the amount of energy a saint possessed was limited, and when the spirit domain continued to grow stronger, it would become the saint's shackles. They realized their true power was not enough to support the squandering of spirit technique. Tang Tian's body went limp. His feet were in the air and his body fell down. No one doubted Ursa Major constellation's position as the new powerhouse, and there were already people calling Ursa Major constellation the 13th ecliptic palace. Previously, although the Ursa Major constellation was hailed as a tyrant by everyone, but compared to a true tyrant of the ecliptic palaces, there was still a huge gap. The entire Heaven's Road was shocked by the might of Ursa Major constellation. Everyone was dumbfounded. They dared to guarantee that in their entire lives, there had never been a battle that was as deeply imprinted in their minds as the one just now. And the effect of a glimmer was similar to that of a soul furnace. This was the true reason why it could become the #1 bronze spirit technique of the Honorable Martial Alliance. Just that, it was unable to completely convert the true power into new energy like the spirit furnace, but to burn the true power in a special way, thus increasing the power of the true power. Meng Ta and the rest were shocked, thinking that it was the enemy's last attack. The blue light that was as fast as lightning drew a beautiful arc in the air, and once again brought Tang Tian back to them. Suddenly, someone shouted, "Look over there!" Suddenly, Tang Tian sensed an unusual fluctuation of astral power. He looked up abruptly. Such a powerful combat power had already exceeded the limits of their imagination. In their eyes, Tang Tian was already an existence akin to a god of war. Everyone descended to the ground. At this moment, the sky rumbled and countless streams of light flashed across the sky like lightning. Everyone was stunned by this sudden turn of events. No one had ever seen such a phenomenon before. For a glimmer to be able to become the Honorable Martial Alliance's strongest bronze spirit technique, it naturally had its own unique point. Any saint, the true power contained in his body, was limited. The growth of the spirit domain was just to accommodate laws, and regardless of what laws it was, they all used true power, which was also energy. The silver-lined heavy shield, with its astonishing defensive power, was the best weapon in Tang Tian's hands. It was powerful and heavy, like a large fly swatter. After subduing Big Dipper, swallowing Sexton's constellation, Ursa Major constellation opened the Treasure City. Thousand Hands Devil Monarch's last wish. The stone penetrated Yaya's body like jelly. Zheng Yu and the rest had long been caught by the Light Blade army below, although they were injured and unconscious, but their lives were not in danger. This made Tang Tian heave a sigh of relief. After returning, with Ding Man around, there would definitely be no problems. This is my battle. The fist-sized straight pipe led deep into the ground. Tang Tian, whose bloodline had been completely awakened, had become extremely terrifying. The blood in his body continued to flow into the blood furnace, evolving inside the blood furnace, and then flowed into every other part of his body. The zero-energy body that was initially thought to be unable to improve, continued to evolve. Just that on Yaya's back, there was an additional pair of blue light wings, and on its forehead, a pile of blue stones was revealed. The stones that entered Yaya's body suddenly produced a powerful suction force, causing the glimmer that was wreaking havoc in Yaya's body to be continuously absorbed by the stones. Gradually, the blue light aura from the stones became brighter, and the blue light aura started to permeate into Yaya's body. Holding on to the silver-lined heavy shield, he appeared like a ghost behind the temple saints, who were escaping in panic. The silver-lined heavy shield carried a terrifying power, causing the energy barriers to shatter like fragile glass. Tang Tian's eyes were red. He gasped for breath with all his might. The veins on his neck were popping out. As far as his eyes could see, all the high and mighty enemies had all fallen to his feet. The flames in his chest became even more intense, causing his entire body to be boiling hot. Countless light auras surged out, forming an extremely congealed gigantic light barrier, protecting the entire ancient cold city. Tang Tian knew that meant that Big Dipper's battle had ended. The figures in the sky continued to fall, smashing into the ground like cannonballs. Oh my God, ancient cold city has become a treasure city! Yeah. And the impressive battle results against the Honorable Martial Alliance had caused the entire heavens road to be speechless. Even in the 12 ecliptic palaces, other than Leo constellation, no other constellation dared to say that they would have such a glorious battle result against the Honorable Martial Alliance. Glimmer could be used on any type of martial technique or spirit technique, and that was one of its strong points. Regardless of whether it was Yi Zhao Ji's sword technique or Su Yi's blade technique, every move they made was extremely powerful. The true power that was combusted would form a light needle effect, and its destructive power towards the spirit and body was even more astonishing. Everyone immediately looked over. In the distant ancient cold city, a dazzling light aura shone down and entered ancient cold city. In the blink of an eye, there were no more saints from the temple floating in the sky, only Tang Tian holding onto the silver-lined heavy shield, gasping for breath. His eyes were red, his neck straightened, and he looked around fiercely. Tang Tian, who was unable to control himself, raised his sinister face. Facing the sky, he roared out in anger. The glimmer in Yaya's body surged endlessly. Suddenly, the stone embedded in Yaya's but lit up with a faint blue light aura. The light aura that lit up was like a needle. It was glimmer, and it was destroying Yaya's body. Yaya had not understood the situation, but with the addition of the flashy blue light wings, Yaya was extremely happy. It proudly flew back in front of everyone, its little head looking around, trying to find Little Fool's figure. Such a flashy thing. Of course he had to let Little Fool admire it. Under the silver-lined heavy shield, the shattered auras rained down. Just at that moment, Bell brought him the latest battle report. Bing led the mechanical army across half of Ursa Major constellation, suddenly appearing behind the Raging Inferno army. The Raging Inferno army had launched a surprise attack, and heavily injured the Raging Inferno army. Ursa Major constellation, who had opened the treasure city, had become even harder to attack, unless they invested more saints. And that meant that the Honorable Martial Alliance needed to fight against 2 ecliptic palaces grade constellations, and Temple would definitely not agree to it. Bang bang bang! Although they had already relied on Ursa Major constellation, but they did not expect that Ursa Major constellation's strength was actually so strong. Following the saints' deeper understanding of energy, they realized that under a few specific laws, through collisions and annihilation, energy would produce a new type of energy, and the strength of this new type of energy would increase exponentially. That was the fundamental difference between Silver Saints and Bronze Saints, and that was the spirit furnace that only Silver Saints had. The true power in a Silver Saint's body would surge into the spirit furnace, transforming into new energy inside the spirit furnace, and would be able to erupt with power that was multiplied exponentially. Yisho Xian, Mo Lei and the rest of the Light Blade army were completely stunned by the battle in the sky, and looked at Tang Tian with eyes filled with deep reverence. Other than the few who died under the spirit-devouring flame, the rest had all died under the hands of Tang Tian's people, including the famous Su Yi. The battle on the ground had already become one-sided. The huge battlefield was dead silent, and only Tang Tian's panting could be heard. Even the Honorable Martial Alliance had stopped all operations against Ursa Major constellation. There were still a few days left until the agreed time with Jie, and Tang Tian was prepared to settle another matter. The other benefit of opening the treasure city was that it would be more convenient to travel between cities. Tang Tian could open star doors between cities, but it would consume star power. Compared to the convenience of the star doors, the consumption of star power was something that Tang Tian did not care about. The star doors between the various treasure cities caused the market of Ursa Major constellation to become extremely prosperous. Everyone's face was filled with joy. Only the 12 ecliptic palaces had the qualifications to form treasure cities, and that required the concentration of star power to exceed a certain threshold. Treasure cities were viewed as the foundation of top-notch tyrants, because treasure cities had outstanding defensive capabilities, and every treasure city was like a node, where they used the star power of the entire constellation. For example, some of the star power in uninhabited regions could be extracted and concentrated in the various treasure cities, thus allowing the star power of the treasure cities to become even denser and more beneficial to the training of martial artists. Temple saints were not blood meridian saints, although their bodies were much stronger than ordinary martial artists, but in the face of such astonishing power, they were unable to resist at all. It was actually Yaya. Yaya, who was in dreamland, was smacking his lips, as though he was eating something delicious, his chubby face revealing a look of satisfaction. The quietly sleeping Yaya suddenly released 2 thin blue auras on his back. Following that, the 2 blue auras revealed 2 small meat sprouts, and the small meat sprouts grew at a speed visible to the naked eye. The underground world was quiet and peaceful. Chi. Just at that moment, an extremely fast blue light suddenly shot out from the ground like lightning, bringing along Tang Tian and flying high into the sky. It was as though something inside the ancient cold city was responding, rumbling and trembling. The tall ice walls were melting at a speed visible to the naked eye, and a dazzling halo enveloped the entire ancient cold city. "This is my victory." The blood in Tang Tian's eyes gradually receded, returning back to normal. He also retreated from the battle, thinking about how dangerous it was. He almost lost face. With his current body, he would definitely not die if he fell from the sky, and could even smash a large hole in the ground, but that would be a huge embarrassment. Tang Tian's speed became faster and faster, and his power became even more terrifying. The young man's blazing fighting intent and lofty sentiments, the young man's steel-like willpower and determination, all followed the angry roar and surged endlessly in the clouds. A small body, curled up into a ball, Yaya's body flickered, as though it was breathing. Yaya's small body was like a glowing meatball, the small flag on its back was broken. Little Fool, who was sleeping inside the energy furnace, suddenly revealed an undetectable smile. New aristocratic family. The treasure city's energy barrier could mobilize a corresponding amount of star power, and its defense was much stronger than the energy barrier constructed by ordinary cities. Treasure City. Chapter 542. Sword Domain. Sea Jelly's face changed. Why are they involved as well? Mingyu looked at the treasure city in front of her, and was in a daze. Although she knew that Ursa Major constellation had opened the treasure city, but when she truly entered Ursa Major constellation and saw the city protected by the star power barrier, she was still in a daze. Regardless of where she went, she was the focus of attention, and countless people were infatuated with her. After solving this doubt, there were even more doubts. Ever since he was young, his mother had never divulged such information, but Tang Tian immediately laughed bitterly. Maybe there was, but he did not care about it. On the contrary, the Southern Cross bronze plate was definitely not a coincidence. That asshole had entrusted Screw to Tsang Yongyu, and the bronze plate had been hanging on his neck since young. That meant that the asshole had a deep relationship with the Southern Cross Army. Sea Jelly did not object. She was extremely beautiful and alluring, and was doted on by thousands of people. She was also intelligent, and naturally had high standards, so how could ordinary men enter her eyes? Gemini constellation. Ling Su's face revealed a tinge of red, but very quickly he became angry. What are you looking at? Do you want to fight? Victory was not easy to come by. Everyone fought with all their might, and only then did they have the current Ursa Major constellation. Tell me about it. The lady revealed an interested expression. Crane and Ling Su had returned long ago, just that. Tang Tian's gaze swept across the young lady beside Ling Su, and his gaze kept on sweeping across Ling Su's face. Are you talking about Jie Shangguan? Si Jelly smiled, brimming with confidence. Didn't she disappear long ago? I can't even fight against a woman who has already disappeared. You are underestimating me too much. Ursa Major constellation will only become stronger. Seeing the flow of people, Andre could not help but sigh. I came to Ursa Major constellation in the past. I guess Yen Yonglai never thought that Ursa Major constellation would one day become so prosperous. All the men in the carriage were attracted to the two of them. Mingyu sighed in her heart. She had seen Tang Tian before in Andromeda constellation, and in truth, she did not think highly of Tang Tian, but the cold martial artist who carried Angelina and escaped from the water had left a deeper impression on her. Ursa Major constellation. Tang Tian remained silent. Bing saw that Tang Tian's expression was not good, and immediately changed the topic. How's little fool? Where's your Gemini furnace? Bing looked at Tang Tian. What if he dies? Who else? Si Jelly's expression returned to normal as she raised her eyebrows. Tell us all at once. They attracted a lot of attention in the carriage. Both of them were extremely beautiful. Mingyu was like an iceberg beauty, while Yuji was a natural seductive beauty. Her every frown and smile were soft and charming. Her appearance was pure and sweet, making it hard for people to take their eyes off her. Uncle Bing put down the report in his hands and shook his head. It only says that Gemini constellation suddenly closed 20 years ago, but did not say the reason. At that time, Heaven's Road was shocked. It was very rare for an ecliptic palace constellation to close. The reason for closing Gemini constellation was not known at the moment, but from the sexton's eye and the Southern Cross bronze plate, it was his arrangements. This meant that this matter must be very dangerous, so dangerous that he didn't know if he could survive. And Song Yongyu said that he was injured at that time, and even though he was injured, he still insisted on doing it. That means, he had no choice but to do it. Yuji nodded and said gently, All right. She did not expect that Tang Tian, whom she did not look favorably upon, would become a hegemon, and the cold and ruthless man with superb sword techniques would disappear without a trace. Since young, she had believed that she could conquer any man. After accomplishing this wish, Tang Tian returned to Bear Head City. We are not the only ones who can see Tang Tian's potential. Andre waved his hand helplessly. Wrong, it's his ability. Ursa Major constellation already has the qualifications to become the 13th ecliptic palace constellation. This new powerhouse has always been the favorite of Sword Domain. And your competition is not only limited to Sword Domain. Tang Tian could not help but reveal a bright smile. To be able to fight with everyone, he was truly happy. Wei Wei and spoke out from the side. Wei Wei Hui is my brother, and also the new patriarch of Ursa Major constellation. Si Jilly raised her eyebrows, her face brimming with confidence. She said proudly, In the end, he will only belong to me. I never thought that little brother would have such a high evaluation of him. The lady smiled sweetly. Ursa Major constellation had entered a period of stability. After the opening of the treasure city, every day, there would be many martial artists coming to seek refuge, even saints. Every city required a city lord to oversee it. The city lord could mobilize star power to a certain extent, thus the position became extremely popular, and to all the powerful martial artists, it was extremely attractive. How can he be compared to father? The lady flattened her mouth, disapproving. Two martial artists intentionally talked loudly in front of Mingyu and Yuji, hoping to attract their attention. Big sister Mingyu, have you been to Ursa Major constellation before? A gentle voice called her back to reality. Tang Tian coughed lightly. Good, everyone will be a family from now on. The flow of people flowed in and out, The market was flourishing, a large number of powerful martial artists surged towards Ursa Major constellation like a tide. And it was after his death. A beautiful lady beside him giggled, and in the hands of his enemies. She had traveled to Ursa Major constellation before, and the scene in front of her was much more prosperous. Andre said solemnly, "See, Jelly, don't look down on him. The current Ursa Major constellation has already surpassed any period in Ursa Major constellation's history. Regardless of whether you look up to it or not, you have to admit, the current Ursa Major constellation is already one of the top-grade unorthodox sects in Heaven's Road." Ming Yu sighed in her heart. Ursa Major constellation's opening of the Treasure City, all the powerful martial artists would be attracted like a tide. Every city lord of a treasure city was able to mobilize a certain range of star power. To martial artists, it was an irresistible temptation. Even many saints were unable to resist it. That was also why the 12 ecliptic palaces were able to last for so long. As long as the treasure city existed, there would be no lack of experts. She truly had the qualifications to be proud. Her long golden hair was like golden waves. She had milky white and exquisite skin, her blue eyes that were as deep and enchanting as the sea. Her figure was much taller than most women, her ample breasts, her waist and abdomen without any excess flesh, her long and slender legs, outlining her perfect figure. Andre could not help but smile. Tang Tian, this person is truly extraordinary. Scarlet still wanted to say something, but Andre looked at her deeply. If Ursa Major constellation did not have such strength, why would we have this trip? But I have to remind you. Andre looked at Scarlet and said, "You have to be careful of your competitors. Brother Yang, no matter what, you have to obtain a city lord position. At that time, don't forget to take care of this little brother." Lion King Leong hoped to ally with Ursa Major constellation. Both parties were enemies with the Honorable Martial Alliance, and could be said to be natural allies. But Leong hoped for both parties to be even stronger, and the ancient method of alliance through marriage was undoubtedly the most effective method. And for Tang Tian to be able to establish such an astonishing foundation at such a young age and change the structure of Heaven's Road, to be able to marry such a powerful martial artist, was a rather good thing. With the help of the Tsongyang fighting grounds, Tang Tian quickly found the Feng family that Senior Thousand Hands Devil Lord had mentioned. Feng Yin'er had passed away for many years, and Tang Tian followed Senior Thousand Hands Devil Lord's instructions, and imparted the thousand-cleaved demonic hand to this family. "Brother Li, you are too modest. Ursa Major constellation itself does not have any strong martial artists. With our standards, the city lord position is a sure thing. That asshole was actually from Gemini constellation." These matters were not what Tang Tian was good at, so Tang Tian naturally threw it to Han Tao and Pai Pa, while he was waiting for Chie to digest his gains. "There is a high possibility that he is already dead," Bing said calmly. "He made so many arrangements that is enough to show that he knows that his chances of winning are very small. After so many years, the possibility of him being alive is already very small." Tang Tian waved his hands and laughed. "Ling Su is very capable." Andre was very familiar with the situation. This time, Ursa Major constellation's mechanical army consecutively defeated 2 gold-rank armies. Libra constellation is not blind, they have also sent people out. Because of Psi Lei, Taurus constellation and Pisces constellation, their relationship is bad, and they are here to repair it. Other than that, Aquarius constellation, Pisces constellation and Cancer constellation have also sent people. I reckon that the other constellations will not sit idly by. In truth, it has been a long time since there was such a popular man. The competition is very intense. The 12 ecliptic palaces were already filled, and the newly emerged Ursa Major constellation had an unparalleled attraction. "I will clarify everything." Tang Tian's face turned black as he interrupted Bing's words. Si Jelly was silent. Before she left, she already knew of her mission. Mingyu looked at Yu Ji's gentle face and nodded. I have traveled before. Ursa Major Constellation's sudden rise had caught everyone unprepared, including Sword Domain. Andre laughed bitterly. Of course, Tang Tian's achievements are much higher than mine. History is always written by the victors. If he was empty-handed, godlike young lad would just be a joke. But, with such a glorious battle record, a godlike young lad is a shining gold medal. His achievements are truly extraordinary, and is only slightly inferior to Royal Father. Not only did she not feel dejected, she was instead filled with fighting spirit. It was a battle, and to win such a battle, she was truly the #1 goddess of Heaven's Road. He thinks that I will forgive him just like that? Tang Tian's face turned black. I am not talking about Jie Shangguan. Andre shook his head. I am talking about Sword Domain. Seeing that everyone was safe and sound, Tang Tian completely relaxed, and everyone revealed smiles on their faces. The period of bitter battles was probably Ursa Major Constellation's most difficult time. Every battle line was extremely tense, and everyone had to put in a lot of effort. After returning, he instructed Bell to gather information on Gemini Constellation. He actually had the blood meridians of Gemini Constellation, which made him extremely surprised. Mingyu said indifferently, "The wind outside is too strong, let's go in." Andre muttered, "The first time I met him was at Andromeda Constellation. Tang Tian was not strong at that time, but he was able to turn danger into safety time and time again. He is a decisive and ruthless person, and has an unusual obsession towards victory. He looks innocent, but is actually very scheming, and do not be deceived by his appearance. Angelina was originally his ally, but now she has become his subordinate, and even Hunter Adrian has pledged his allegiance to him. At that time, I felt that this person's luck was really good, but now that I think about it, I feel that this person is not ordinary." Wei Weiyan looked embarrassed. The young man beside her bowed. Ursa Major Family Wei Hui greets Bear King. Sexton's Constellation, Merlin Pagoda City. Maybe Jie will help me solve the mystery, Tang Tian thought. He raised his head to look at Uncle Bing. The words family, he emphasized it, causing everyone to chuckle. Chapter 543. The energy inside the energy furnace was continuously being purified, and continuously accumulating. It was back to the starting point of life. Blood meridians evolving inside the blood furnace, and then guiding them to places with dense energy, stimulating their growth, just like how he was beaten up by Little Fool. Letting his blood meridians be continuously beaten up by the energy should allow his zero-energy body to evolve more easily. Tang Tian did not know, in the history of Gemini Constellation, the Gemini furnace had never been opened before. To be able to train in two different types of power was always the strongest point of Gemini Constellation, but no one had ever thought of opening the energy furnace and blood furnace. Thinking of it and doing it, that was Tang Tian's style. Blood meridian saints were also inseparable from energy, because under the stimulation of energy, the blood meridians would change more easily. Producing new changes meant that the competition would be more intense, and it would be easier to evolve into stronger blood meridians. Alright, the word crazy was truly too accurate. The young man's actions were always so ecstatic and unpredictable. He did not have any intention to stop him, and just left. Tang Tian did not have any feelings towards the blood saint previously, but the more he looked, the more fearful he became. The blood saint was much stronger than he had imagined. If not for Senior Gui Wu's records and insights, Tang Tian felt that he would never understand all of this. Spirit sages had an extremely deep understanding of training the spirit. At the start, people were very confused how spirits were formed, and this question had puzzled humans for many years. And in the end, the answer to this mystery was the inspiration that Star Treasures gave to martial artists. Little Fool thought in his mind, but he still explained to Tang Tian, although this method was beneficial to the blood meridians, but to him it was rather harmful. Spirit was the most mystical and subtle part of the life laws. Upon reaching the saint level, one would realize that all training was the same, and were all explorations of life. This title was obviously even more eye-catching. After watching for half a day, Little Fool did not discover anything. There were no changes in the fool's body. Little Fool looked at the fool as though he was looking at a monster. Was this guy possessed by someone? Natural selection, survival of the fittest, was one of the highest laws of nature. The path of life was always full of changes and richness. That's true. Tang Tian tilted his head and thought for a moment. Suddenly, he said, it's very simple. I just need to guide a little less of my blood into it. My bloodline can repel energy. If I control the amount of my bloodline and make it repel energy but not destroy it, I can squeeze the energy into a ball and increase the concentration of energy. How did he suddenly become so smart? Hey waiter, you're done. Tang Tian was pleasantly surprised. The bloodline saints by Tang Tian's side were all very ordinary, and they did not understand these things. Fortunately, Senior Gui Wu had left behind many insights and experiences. Tang Tian braced himself and flipped through those ancient books that made his head hurt, and finally had some insight. So, the dense energy inside the energy furnace was extremely beneficial to the growth of spirit origin, which was also the reason why Little Fool felt comfortable. Tang Tian's body was very special. Zero energy body. Without the stimulation of energy, wouldn't the evolution of his bloodline be lacking in assistance? The blood furnace was the unique spirit domain of the bloodline saint. It could allow the bloodline to continuously evolve. To the bloodline saints, it was the source of their strength. The energy inside the energy furnace was extremely dense, and Little Fool was far from being able to absorb so much. Just in time to let the blood meridians extinguish some of the energy, so he did not have to worry about the energy furnace exploding. Regardless of whether it was the blood membrane of the blood furnace or the energy walls of the energy furnace, they were all extremely sturdy and stable. Seems like he had been beaten up a lot recently, and became enlightened? Little Fool was startled. This fool actually knows how to use his brain. Little Fool subconsciously retorted. But when the words reached his mouth, he was stunned. And in terms of lifespan, blood saints had a stronger advantage. Because their law was life and evolution. Little Fool was actually almost done, but the energy inside the energy furnace was too dense. Soaking inside, he felt so comfortable that he did not want to move. He was originally extremely pure, and was extremely compatible with energy. Sleeping inside the energy furnace was a form of enjoyment. Tang Tian woke Little Fool up. So among the saints, many people wanted to differentiate them from the blood saints, and called them spirit saints. Little Fool was curious. But in the next second, his expression froze on his face. He had to admit that in theory, there was no problem with Tang Tian's idea. But, if that was the case, the density inside the energy furnace would decrease greatly. To Little Fool, that was definitely a terrible thing. The Gemini furnace's power was not just limited to that. The energy furnace was like a huge whirlpool, absorbing the energy around it was extremely strong. And it was able to purify the energy, which was of great help to the training of true power. The blood meridians of the blood meridians saints would continuously flow into the blood furnace. After completing the evolution, the blood meridians would continuously feed into every corner of the body, and from there, it would cause the body to become stronger. For the blood meridians to be able to last for so many years and experience the baptism of time, it was enough to prove that it conformed to the laws of heaven and earth. The powerful blood saints, shone with the sun and moon, swallowed the sky and roared at the moon, overturned the rivers and seas, and moved freely in the void. Spirits came from energy. The denser the energy, the easier it was to form spirit. And the saints continued to deduce and research, and discovered that when the density of energy reached a certain level, it would form an extremely minute spiritual body, and that was the spirit origin. Little Fool felt as though he was soaking in an astonishingly dense energy. To Little Fool, it was the best place to recuperate. "Why do you guide the blood meridians into the energy furnace?" Little Fool asked coldly. "Killing two birds with one stone." But to Tang Tian, the energy that could not be released was a huge hidden danger. Tang Tian, who was trembling in fear, felt as though there was a bomb in his body, and he could be blown to pieces at any time. The Gemini furnace was truly extraordinary, and life itself was one of the most profound laws in the world. All the powerful blood saints, their bodies would undergo huge changes. Some would grow wings, which would allow them to be faster and more agile. Some would grow scales, which would allow them to become sturdier and stronger. Some would have their eyes evolve, and some would have their strength become extremely terrifying. Tang Tian could not wait to try it out. But when it came to Tang Tian, there was an accident because his body was a zero-energy body. The energy furnace was of great help to Little Fool, and his spirit value was increasing rapidly. And the blood furnace was equally strong. It could use the evolution of blood to continuously transform the martial artist's body, and from there, allow the martial artist's body to continuously evolve. "Oh, that's what I was thinking." Tang Tian blabbered on about his thoughts. The 12 ecliptic palaces, every constellation had its own unique bloodline, and the Gemini furnace was the strongest talent of the Gemini blood meridians awakening. The Gemini furnace was formed from the energy furnace and the blood furnace, representing two completely different training methods. Martial artists who possessed the blood meridians of Gemini constellation could simultaneously train in the martial techniques of the blood meridians and energy systems. And the blood furnace was also something that Tang Tian wanted to understand. What methods would this fellow use? That was the true power of the blood furnace. Little Fool, who was awakened, flew out and stared at Tang Tian with an unkind expression. Tang Tian was surprised by his own genius thinking. His face was filled with pride. This godlike young lad was truly too powerful. Oh, if Chien knew, she would definitely praise me for being smart. Although the energy furnace and Gemini furnace were right next to each other, but how to break the barrier between the two was a problem that gave Tang Tian a headache. The energy furnace had a layer of energy outer wall, while the blood furnace had a layer of blood membrane, and the two were stuck together. Star treasures that were slightly stronger would have their own martial spirit. The evolution of star treasures would take place over the years. Now Tang Tian had an even better method, and that was the blood furnace. He did not need the blood meridians to produce new components, and only needed the components of the zero-energy body that could repel energy. The zero-energy body that had a strong repelling ability towards energy caused the energy furnace to be in an intense state of suppression. The energy furnace's ability to absorb energy was also very strong. The energy that was absorbed into the energy furnace was unable to smoothly enter Tang Tian's body, and so it continued to accumulate inside the energy furnace. When the constellation was formed, the star power would gradually stabilize. Some of the treasures inside the constellation were extremely compatible with energy, which was also the star power, and they would continuously absorb the star power, and after thousands of years, the rich energy would accumulate in their bodies, and they would start to nurture martial spirit. But, when Tang Tian guided the blood meridians into the energy furnace, Little Fool was awakened, and immediately became enraged. Tang Tian's blood meridians possessed an extremely strong annihilation energy effect, and the energy inside the energy furnace's concentration dropped. Tang Tian had unknowingly done something that no one had ever done before. But towards this point, Bing was already used to it. All the powerful martial techniques, when in Crazy Tang's hands, would always change beyond recognition. To be able to produce the zero-energy body, such a weird body, Bing would not be surprised at all if Crazy Tang were to produce anything else. Only the completely awakened Gemini blood meridians could produce the Gemini furnace, and its power could be seen at a glance. Tang Tian thought about the training method of the zero-energy body that Senior Gue Wu left behind, and continuously stimulated the zero-energy body, causing its ability to repel energy to become stronger. He and Little Fool fought for a few days, proving that Senior Gui Wu's guess was correct. As for energy, was there a better place than the energy furnace? And the blood furnace was the most resolute supporter of this law. It was like an arena, and the people participating in the fight were the various similar components in everyone's blood meridians. Any type of blood meridians had extremely complicated components, formed from billions of small components. The similar components would compete with each other, and the strong would win. Let us try. Tang Tian was also extremely excited by his own genius idea. If it could really be realized, in the future, this godlike young lad, would he be hailed as a godlike master of cultivation? Little Fool wanted to advise Tang Tian to cancel the plan. No matter how he looked at it, the plan was not worth it. How could the potential of the zero-energy body compare to his? Little Fool was also thinking, how could he guide the blood meridians into the energy furnace? A saint's spirit domain also needed to be trained. In the mainstream understanding, the so-called martial spirit was the spirit that could be transformed into energy. The spirit domain was evolved from the martial spirit, and to make the spirit domain stronger, one needed to train the spirit. But now that he understood it, Tang Tian also had an idea. The fool's idea was feasible. Chapter 544. One moving and one quiet, one hot and one cold, Tang Tian had broken the barrier between them, and allowed them to once again form an ingenious balance. Little Fool quivered. He immediately stopped his dangerous thoughts, and became vigilant. He had obviously told all the relevant information about the Gemini furnace to the Fool. In the end, the Fool had completely ignored it. Relying on his own imagination and pestering endlessly, he did whatever he wanted. His other side was actually so muddle-headed, Little Fool was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. If the sea of blood in the blood furnace was a sea of lava with raging winds, then the sea of energy in the energy furnace was a calm and windless ice-cold sea. Tang Tian's method was extremely simple and crude. It was the first time Little Fool felt that his brain was not enough. He stared blankly at Tang Tian, as though he did not know the Fool. His heart felt as though it was being trampled by a group of wild beasts. Little Fool stared at Tang Tian in shock. He did not know what to say. Little Fool suddenly noticed that the concentration of energy was continuously increasing, and the repulsive force coming from the sea of blood was also becoming stronger. That bright and blazing scarlet red made Little Fool instinctively dislike it. "You're right." Little Fool, who had calmed down, nodded his head. He sneered in his heart, how could a lunatic's world be the same? So Little Fool is the other side of me. Tang Tian was not angry. He rubbed his chin and was enlightened. No wonder I felt that Little Fool is powerful. The other side of this godlike young lad, how can he not be powerful? In the end, I am powerful. Ayaya, seriously, why am I so powerful? The blue energy became even denser. It was as though it had been compressed by half, and the deep blue color to Little Fool was like a delicacy that he could not resist. That's right, it must be like that. Shouldn't those fellows who knew that they had a second personality be nervous and vigilant? To have such a proud expression, as though all the credit belongs to me, what kind of nerves do they have? Tang Tian was quite satisfied with his own genius, but he reminded the waiter in all seriousness, "Hey, waiter, as the other side of the godlike young man, don't let my illustrious name down." The waiter had calmed down a little, but now he was enraged by Erwo's nonchalant attitude. He screamed, "If you want to die, go ahead. Don't drag me into this. I'm so unlucky, to actually share the same body with a bastard like you." His heart turned cold. The Gemini furnace was the final product of the Gemini blood meridians awakening. He decided to spend some time to sort out the things left behind by Senior Gui Wu in the forceful subjugating bead. Moreover, he also wanted to find out what the stone in Yaya's body was. Tang Tian grabbed Yaya and lifted her in front of him. He pinched Yaya's meaty and round buttocks and clicked his tongue in wonder. You didn't even leave a mark. This meat is so bouncy, it must be very chewy. Could it be that the world of lunatics was really that magical? Are you crazy? Are you trying to get us all killed? You lunatic. Gemini furnace. Do you know what a Gemini furnace is? You don't even know shit and you're so reckless. I'm so stupid to actually believe you, a brainless idiot, a lunatic. You idiot, you've messed everything up. Messed up. Do you know? You're trying to get us all killed. Yaya's body froze, her face turning green. When the waiter reacted, Tang Tian was already showing off and playing with the Gemini furnace. He was talking to himself. Relax, relax, such a genius idea. Even the godlike young lad can think of it. What else can't the godlike young lad do? But, little fool, it's not that I want to scold you, but you are the other side of the godlike young lad. Can you show a bit of grandeur? Don't throw my face, it's just a small matter, and you're making such a big fuss. The godlike young lad is smart and far-sighted, steady and magnanimous. Why didn't you learn from him? The other side of me isn't so weak, right? The waiter immediately realized the benefits of it. He hugged his head and looked at Tang Tian in disbelief. In truth, Tang Tian being able to complete the ultimate awakening was inconceivable to the waiter. Even if it was Little Fool himself, he was not sure if he could awaken so early. And it was constructed so crudely. He could not control the energy furnace, but he could control the blood furnace to a certain extent. Tang Tian controlled the blood furnace, and fiercely smashed into the energy furnace. Bang, the energy wall broke, the blood membrane and blood splattered. The originally distinct Gemini furnace had merged into one. Is that so? Is that so? Tang Tian's face was originally pale, but hearing Little Fool's words, he immediately became spirited and proud. Haha, don't worship me too much, actually it's not a big deal. To the godlike young lad, this kind of innovation is a piece of cake. Thinking about that, the waiter's heart twitched. He had finally awakened with great difficulty, and was able to have a big killing technique, but now it was ruined by the fool. The waiter's heart was bleeding. The red sea of blood and the blue energy were still clearly separated, but between the sea of blood and the energy, there was a large empty space. The scene in front of him was extremely strange. The blue energy was squeezed to a corner of the energy furnace, and the bright red sea of blood was also squeezed to a corner of the blood furnace. Without hesitation, he rushed into the sea of energy. All right. Tang Tian clapped his hands, his face full of pride, and said, as expected, to the godlike young lad, it is not difficult at all. Hey, little fool, you have to learn from me. When you are able to learn half of my power, oh no, 30% of my power, you will realize the world in your eyes will be completely different. The 12 ecliptic palaces, every palace's blood meridian, would have completely different and unique abilities during the ultimate awakening. But for the ecliptic palace constellation's blood meridian, to complete the ultimate awakening, was extremely difficult. Balance should be the Libra constellation's talent. The Gemini constellation's talent was one body with two sides, light and shadow, yin and yang, black and white, etc., etc. It itself was an extremely profound and powerful law. The Gemini constellation was one body with two sides skillfully and easily, but no one would have thought, to fuse two sides into one body, it would create such a strange balance. Wait a minute, the question was diverted. Everyone was talking about the Gemini furnace just now. Little Fool's face was so gloomy that water could drip out. His words seemed to be squeezed out from the gaps of his teeth. Don't be too nervous? Hee, congratulations, you have become the first Gemini saint in history to fuse the Gemini furnace into one body. Tang Tian released his hand, and Yaya disappeared in the blink of an eye, as though he had been pardoned. Little Fool soaked his body in the blue sea of energy. Tang Tian's face was slightly white, the fierce attack just now, even he himself was unable to take it. Hearing Little Fool's screams, he waved his hand. Don't be too nervous. The Gemini furnace's transformation was a success, and Tang Tian's mood was extremely good. It allowed him to taste the sweetness. Senior Gui Wu was truly worthy of being called Onyx Soul's 3 blood saints. He still had some standard. This fool actually succeeded. In the usage of the Gemini furnace, there was no such thing as fusing the 2 furnaces into one. He initially thought that Tang Tian would have some ingenious method. Little Fool's mouth was wide open, and he was speechless for a long time. His IQ must not be dragged down by this idiot. Between me and the fool, we are mortal enemies. This is definitely the fool's plot. The fool wants to use this method to lower my intelligence, and then use my rich experience to defeat me. The blue energy that originally filled the energy furnace was pushed to the corner of the energy furnace by the strong repulsive force, and only occupied half of the energy furnace. Smart and wise, steady and magnanimous. The mystical and subtle balance caused Little Fool to be absent-minded for a moment. Yaya flew out at this time, squeaking as he pounced towards Tang Tian. Ever since this little fellow had wings, he had been flying around, and did not stop to rest. To be able to succeed like this fellow's luck is truly too good. Alright, form spirits do not have lungs. As expected, I have lost my mind from anger. If he did not see it with his own eyes, he would never believe that the mystical balance in front of him was actually created by the fool. Carrying this sorrow and regret, Little Fool flew into the energy furnace, and then he was startled. He could see that the blood furnace was like a heart, rhythmically contracting and expanding. Every time it contracted and expanded, it would cause the blood inside the blood furnace to sway. In Little Fool's vision, the sea of blood was like a bright red ocean. The wind howled angrily, surging unceasingly, containing an unparalleled wild power. He once again floated into Tang Tian's body. The originally beautiful Gemini furnace, in his eyes, was a tragic sight. With a missing piece in the middle, it was pieced together stiffly. The burning sensation assaulted his senses. Between the blue and red, there was an extremely strong repulsive force. They were like magnets repelling each other. The opposite blood meridians were slowly evolving. The repulsive force became stronger and stronger, and at the same time, the blue sea of energy that he was immersed in also started to absorb the energy. Conversely, the stronger the sea of energy, it also stimulated the evolution of the blood meridians. This reaction, other than the crazy young man, he could not think of anyone else. Go and play by yourself, I still have things to do. Little Fool was so angry that his entire body was trembling. All of his calmness was thrown to the back of his head. He felt that he was going crazy. To actually place his hopes on such an unreliable person, he deserved to die. Little Fool, who was immersed in the sea of energy, his face was as gloomy as the surrounding seawater that was becoming deeper. Where the hell did you come from to have such unwarranted confidence? I was actually taught a lesson by the fool. But the calm Little Fool did not let the pleasure get to his head. He felt extremely uncomfortable. This asshole. He had never felt so comfortable before. It made him so happy that he almost moaned. The density had doubled, the effect was obvious. Little Fool could clearly feel that the spirit origin was continuously being produced. Tang Tian groaned. The process of the collision was definitely not beautiful. An intense pain came from his chest, and before he could even gasp for breath, his ears were filled with Little Fool's flustered and exasperated screams. Eating. Chapter 545. Seeing their excited faces, Ling Su did not give them a chance to refute. He called the guards and brought the two of them into the recruit barrack. Tang Tian stood beside the pile of spirit treasures, as though he was a trash collector. The silver frost sheep horn seal suddenly lit up with a faint light aura, transforming into a silver light that entered Ling Su's body. Ling Su looked at the two people in front of him, squinting his eyes. You guys want to learn spear techniques from me? Ling Su squinted his eyes. his aura suddenly becoming sharp. The two of them held their breaths, their bodies trembling slightly. Their strength, in front of Ling Su, was insignificant. Being swept by Ling Su's gaze, the two of them felt weak, but they did not cower. The hardships they had gone through had tempered their willpower, and also strengthened their hearts. The two of them revealed a look of reverence. Ling Su's killing intent was as dense as wine, but it did not have the slightest bit of bloodthirstiness or ruthlessness. This pair of wings seems to be called demonic wings. It is a spirit treasure from the distant east. I do not know anything else. Little Crane, your crane sex inheritance originates from the east. I feel that this demonic wings should be very suitable for you. The east actually has spirit treasures. It truly makes me curious. After that, from Senior Gue Wu's records, he found out about the origins of Drunk on Saint Blood, and immediately started to learn it. Silver Frost Sheep Horn Seal. Ling Su declined to comment. Wait till you guys pass the recruit training. Oh, I forgot to tell you guys, the recruit training of Ursa Major Constellation is the most cruel. People die often. If you can't hold on, don't force yourself. In front of him, Ouyang Shi and Zhuo Yan stood perfectly straight. Tang Tian thought sinisterly, humph humph, little crane wearing the wings. He will definitely be so beautiful that even the ladies will be jealous. Ling Su's mind was blank and subconsciously received the silver frost sheep horn seal that Tang Tian threw over. The seal did not look special, it was a straight sheep horn, a round seal, with the insignia of the silver frost mounts carved on it. Ouyang Shi straightened his back and shouted loudly, Master, please accept us. He was full of fighting spirit. The honest Ouyang Shi was stunned. This question had stumped him. Yes, why did Lord Ling Su want to teach them? They had nothing to do with Ling Su, and they were even disciples of opposing forces. Why would Lord Ling Su want to teach them? In the courtyard, the feeling of spring gradually rose, the branches of the flowers trembled, and the bamboo table was cool with tea and teacups. Crane sat upright with a smile on his face. I have not seen Xiao Duo for a long time. Xiao Duo is becoming more and more beautiful. Rebuild the silver frost mounts? Ling Su looked at the two of them and mocked. With just the two of you, rebuild the silver frost mounts? This sword was the only sword that Senior Gue Wu had collected. Crane bowed slightly. Help me thank Aunt. Aunt thinks too highly of me. The smile on Crane's face remained, his tone was tactful. Aunt is in her prime, it is still too early for such matters. Furthermore, I feel very comfortable in Ursa Major Constellation, and do not want to change places. The current Crane was maturing day by day. His state of mind was calm, and his breadth of mind was much wider than before. Facing the goodwill from his aunt, he did not display the coldness of rejecting her, but instead smiled and thanked her. Tang Tian muttered, and threw the silver frost sheep talisman to Ling Su. Ouyang Shi and Zhuo Yan's faces immediately flushed red. In the middle of the meeting room, there was a pile of spirit treasures. Tang Tian's voice sounded distant to everyone's ears, as though it came from high up in the clouds, causing everyone to feel as though they were stepping on cotton, their legs going soft. Everyone's expression was somewhat absent-minded, even the most calm Jing Hao was somewhat dazed. From the moment he stepped into the meeting room, his gaze never left the black sword in the middle of the spirit treasures. Big brother Jing Hao, this drunk on Saint Blood is for you. Without hesitation, Tang Tian threw the black sword to Jing Hao. Jing Hao subconsciously received it. Upon receiving it, a burst of sword intent entered his heart. He quivered, as though he was doused with cold water in the winter. He became clear-headed. Ling Su knew how precious it was, the silver frost sheep horn seal, the commander's seal of the silver frost mounts, was the symbol of the authority of the silver frost mounts, and only the leader of the silver frost mounts had the qualifications to wield it. Although Zhuo Yan's face was slightly pale, he gathered his courage. Master, only the silver frost mounts can rebuild the Ares. Only the silver frost mounts can allow people to regain the lost glory of the Ares. Master, the time to rebuild the silver frost mounts has arrived. Xiao Duo's face blossomed into a smile. Thank you for your praise, Your Highness. The sword's body was black and unadorned, thick and heavy, with 2 lines of small characters. Drink the saint's blood, only then will you know the taste. And Yu Hong wanted to say more, but Crane waved his hand. Aunt and you don't have to persuade me. Crane does not have great ambitions, and does not have the ambition of a human king. It was not easy for De Xiong to walk to where he is today. It can be said that every inch of land and every inch of blood, everyone fought shoulder to shoulder, united as a stronghold, to have the current situation. Crane fought with everyone here, and was injured, but never thought of leaving. Although Sagittarius is good, but it is not a place that Crane can protect. This, drunk on Saint Blood, has a great history. Many years ago, there was a sword fanatic that appeared out of nowhere, moving unhindered in heaven's road, challenging saints everywhere, but no one was able to last more than 10 moves, causing his reputation to rise. All of the saints that lost to him secretly formed an alliance and set up an ambush, but in the end, he killed 30 of them, and left calmly, and no one dared to chase after him. This sword is his sword. After drinking the saint's blood, he changed its name to Drunk on Saint Blood, and only drinks the saint's blood. Silver Frost Mounts. The current Ling Su was no longer the immature young lad. The continuous campaigns, especially the continuous battles with the saints and Big Dipper, caused him to become even stronger. Standing in front of him, Ouyang Shi and Zhuo Yan both felt their hearts jump. Ling Su was like a death god that walked out from hell, his entire body overflowing with killing intent. Such a strong sword concept. The lady was called Yu Hong, and was a person with authority in Sagittarius constellation, and was deeply trusted by the Empress. I called everyone here, to split the spoils, no, to split the spoils of war. Jing Hao's face could not help but reveal a look of ecstasy. Any swordsman's love for their treasured swords was definitely from the bottom of their hearts. I don't know. Ling Su thought for a while, then muttered to himself. Teacher would probably hope that I do that, but I do not have any sense of belonging to Aries constellation. To protect Aries constellation, I am not willing. Oh, I will go find Crazy Tang. I might as well let him take down Aries constellation, that way I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. She laughed. His Majesty once said, Your Highness represents the future. I had my suspicions, but after personally seeing Your Highness today, I know how wise His Majesty is. The future Sagittarius constellation, in Your Highness' hands, will definitely shine. Zhuo Yan, who had been quiet the entire time, suddenly spoke. Because the silver frost mounts cannot be alone. The few people beside her revealed looks of shock. Although the rumors of Prince Crane taking over Sagittarius constellation was not new, but for Yu Hong to personally say it, it had a completely different meaning. In the future, he would directly kick little Crane into the ranks of women, and no one would be more handsome than this godlike young lad. Yu Hong forced a smile. We have important matters to attend to. As light as a feather, every feather on the wings was as clear as water, the surface suffused with a layer of faint rainbow light aura. The energy undulation released by the wings was not considered strong, but it had a unique rhythm, which immediately tugged at Crane's heartstrings. Just at that moment, the communication treasure on his body moved. Crane was already completely immersed in the profound and mysterious rhythm of the heavenly devil feather. The Crane body energy in his body involuntarily flowed along with the rhythm. Why do I have to teach you? Ling Su was expressionless. Crane bowed to everyone and then left. Ling Su, this silver frost sheep horn seal, is definitely yours. It is said that only the leader of the silver frost mounts can wield it. This Senior Gui Wu's taste is really mixed. Why does he accept everything? The disciples of the Crane sect kept pouring into Ursa Major constellation, and even the great clan elder was considering moving the Crane sect to Ursa Major constellation. The training environment of Ursa Major constellation was many times better than Heavenly Crane constellation. It was not only the Crane sect, even the Shangguan family of Immortal constellation had already migrated to Ursa Major constellation. Big Brother Ling, are you really going to build the silver frost mounts? Wei Wei and asked curiously. Crane smiled. Why must I be the master of a constellation? Crane's life wish is to revitalize the Crane sect, and to obtain a place for the Crane sect to rest, and now that I have achieved my wish, and it has far exceeded what I wanted, what more can I be dissatisfied with? Tang Tian did not have time to care about him, and continued with his division of loot. Crazy Tang has asked everyone to gather. Ling Su snorted. What tricks does he want to play again? Let's go, we can find him to fight. The admiration in Ni Yuhong's eyes became heavier. His Highness Crane's demeanor and bearing was simply impeccable. She had followed the Empress for a long time, and knew a thing or two about her thoughts. The Empress had never married in her life, and did not have any children, so she was very fond of her nephew. Crane's performance in the past 2 years proved that he had the ability to inherit Sagittarius constellation. Tang Tian said everything he knew in one breath, then grabbed a pair of crystal wings and threw it to Crane. By Xiao Duo's side, a few beautiful ladies sat side by side. They looked at the refined and gentle His Highness Crane, and could not help but reveal looks of admiration. One of the slightly older ladies said, "Before we left, His Majesty instructed us to pass on a message to Your Highness. If there are any difficulties, Sagittarius constellation will forever be Your Highness' support." The communication treasure on Crane's body trembled. Crane swept it with his mind, then raised his head and spoke to the ladies. "My apologies, Crazy Tang is looking for me to discuss matters. I will take my leave." Inside the energy furnace, Little Fool's face was covered in tears. His heart felt as though it was being cut by a knife. "Master, please do not look down on me." Inside the meeting room, Crane, Ling Su, Jing Hao, Magic Flute, Ding Man led the Saint unit, Amauri, Han Bingning and the rest all entered one by one, but when they entered the meeting room, their gazes landed in the middle of the meeting room, and all of them were stunned. Jing Hao was extremely excited. He caressed the sword body, and the lonely back view of the exceptional swordsman appeared in his mind. He knew about it, but the senior did not leave his name, and the matter had become a taboo topic, and was not mentioned in detail. The Honorable Martial Alliance was also a participant at that time, but with just a few words, it was enough for him to understand the elegance of the exceptional swordsman. All of the ladies were speechless, and Crane's current prestige in the Crane sect was unparalleled. He was the second saint in the Crane sect after Spiritual Master Crane, and at such a young age, and was a core member of Ursa Major constellation. It was something they did not even dare to think about in the past. Ni Yuhong looked at Crane deeply, and said with a profound meaning, "Although Ursa Major is good, Your Highness is not the master of Ursa Major. And for Sagittarius constellation, in 3 to 5 years, Your Highness will be able to control the universe. Master, no matter what test it is, we will accept it."